Good evening. Welcome everyone to the Town of Bowling Green's council meeting, Thursday, July 6, 2023. We are missing one representative, David Stork. Other than that, we have 6 council persons, so we have a quorum. Meeting is open. If you would please stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda tonight is well, hold on, before I get there. Down on delegations, if y'all look on your agenda, 2 and 3 need to be reversed. So just reverse that, please. 2 to 3 and 3 to 2.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a suggestion too. I'd like to strike number 16 on new business, the tattoo and body piercing establishment. The gentleman that was going to be here to talk to us tonight was in a bad accident. He's still in semi-coma in the hospital from a head fracture. So he cannot be here, and his wife requested this yesterday from me to strike it until he's feeling better and can come in. And I'd also like to make a motion to add to the agenda the
Hold
Main
on a
Street.
second, we can do one at a time.
All right.
Is he okay?
They don't
All
know.
right, so you want to take off item number 16?
Number 16, yes.
Okay. All right, we will take that off the agenda tonight, and we'll add that back on when he's feeling better. All right, so what else you said you wanted to
Okay,
add?
I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda, the Main Street parking by business owners and their employees. There's a big problem there, and I'd like to discuss that tonight with everybody.
We can put, you just want to put that in informational, or?
No, we need to come to some type of agreement, I think, or come to some type.
Well, we can throw it in the new business, and we
Okay.
can discuss it. All right, put it as number 19. Parking on Main Street.
19 is the National Night Out.
I'm sorry, 20, thank you.
Couldn't you just replace 16 with that? So if we strike 16, we could replace number 16 with Mr. Hagman's.
I don't see any harm in it, but I'm assuming we can. Yeah, all right, we'll make it number 16, parking on Main Street. Okay, 16 is back on. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, now back up to public hearings. Item number 1 on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We should probably adopt the agenda with the recommended or requested changes before we move forward.
Well, to tell you the truth, he made a motion on it, on adding that item in there.
Well,
So if
you
we
also,
either, we didn't get a second, so I guess we can just go ahead and just vote the whole thing in then. Yeah, that'll be fine. You want to make a motion? I made the motion. No, to make a motion to adopt the agenda as it has been amended?
I make the motion to adopt the agenda as it has been amended.
All right, I got a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay? All right. Thank you. All right, moving on. Public hearing. Item number 1, utilities and trash rate increase. Allison, you want to?
Mr. Mayor and
Start off
members
on
of
this.
council, this is the public hearing for an increase in, a proposed increase in the utility rates, water and sewer, as well as the trash rates. The proposed budget includes a 15% increase for the water, 7.5% increase to sewer, and 10% increase to the trash collections.
All right, I'd like to open the floor to public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Anybody would like to come up and speak, please come on up, state your name and your address, and I'll give you 3 minutes. Second call. Okay, ma'am, sorry. You didn't wave your hand and tell me that.
Bonnie Cannon, South Main Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, Mr. Mayor and Council. And as always, you know I'm always strongly opposed to rate increases. But I will mention one thing. You're talking about doing this. I don't know why Allison read through the sentence right here. I got it right here in your packet. She stopped after and 10% increase for trash collection, period. Right. Those next two sentences is referring insufficient revenue. That's not my problem. That's a management problem, isn't it? I don't understand that part of this paragraph that's got that in there. It makes it sound like, I don't know what it makes it sound like. I just don't understand it, okay? But I am strongly opposed to rate increases. I'm a senior in this town. I cannot sustain increases over and over and over and over. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody else? Got second call? All right, hearing or seeing no one, we will close public hearing. Public hearing is now officially closed. Now we'll have discussions. We need by motion, either to adapt, make changes, or keep it like it is.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question on the trash collection rate increase due to insufficient revenue. So we're not in the business to sell trash, to buy trash. So I'm just wondering, is it possible to have an alternative, possibly speak with another trash company, American Hauling, and maybe is it possible for them to deal directly with residents as a client basis? So we would give them our customer list. They would, whoever wants to pay for their own trash will pay for their own trash, and if someone wants to go to the dump, they can go to the dump. And we can eliminate the town being involved totally of any trash. Just a thought, or?
Well, I certainly love the
That is
idea.
something y'all can discuss about.
I definitely like that. I mean, we were discussing before how we may, excuse me, get out of the business of doing the trash at all. But don't we have a year and a quarter left on the contract?
I believe we do. So for future reference, American Hauling is extremely reputable. They've been around a long time. I don't think we've ever contacted them. So, I mean, if we can hold off until that contract is over with, I mean, how much revenue are you going to collect in a year and a half off a bunch of trash?
Well, it's not really about,
So, well,
It would be 10,000, because right now we're in a deficit of $10,000, I believe, on the trash. And this is just to break even, so we've been operating that line item at a loss.
yeah, for years now. To answer the question that was asked, you know, we pay, oh goodness, hold on.
Who else?
I'll bring up in
Continue
the
on.
interim while Mr. Voigt's out, but the increase on the water rate is, again, a requirement of the USDA loan. There's no getting around that, so we can't stay at the same rate, or we'll, I guess, be non-compliant on the requirements of the USDA funds that the town has received.
So you're telling me that what we charge people for trash is not enough to pay what they're charging us?
Yes.
That's correct,
Okay.
by 10,000.
That sounds like an issue that's in-house. I don't see why it should be passed on to the customers out there when we can't even get our own house cleaned up. Because we have a bad issue now with bills and everything, so we're not collecting money from people on water. We're behind on everything, and it's the same thing with the sewer. We got to increase the sewer 10%, 7.5%. And we don't even know. We have never had this problem before, and all of a sudden now it's creeped up on us. I think we ought to take a year and just relook at this and get everything cleaned up, see what we have coming in, see what we're actually missing. I understand the water. Water has to go up. But, I'm just giving my opinion to it because, we don't know what we have in-house. We don't know our money situation. It's in bad shape. And that's got to get cleaned up before we start tacking stuff onto the people when we don't even know where we stand.
Mr. Mayor, were you in the budgetary discussions that we've had for the last 3 months?
I've been in them. That doesn't mean I got to believe it. Because the numbers y'all were giving out weren't correct numbers.
Well, we know what the annual bill is to the trash contract.
I understand that. I'm talking about what's coming in. You can't even tell us properly what's coming in, so you can't match everything up. If you don't know your total revenue coming in, then your expenditures are going to be different. The amount in between.
Okay,
your percentage.
So the difference is $3.19 on an annual basis to the citizens of the town that do have the trash service. That's $19.14 of an increase for trash. That breaks us even. I understand during the budget session that we were operating at a loss. So to break even, we're not making money on this topic here. We're trying to break even on our costs, which that has to take place. We did ask to renegotiate the contract when that happened, but I asked till I was blue in the face here. I don't know what else to do.
Well, I'm just giving my opinion, what I think. I'm not here to have a discussion back and forth or.
Well, you just
I'm
asked
just
if we
giving my
would
opinion of
postpone
it,
it for a year.
And that's all. That's just my opinion of it. I'm a citizen here, so.
I
I
think
can
we're all
tell you that
citizens.
the budget going back to FY21, which is before our financial issue started, we only took in $88,000 that year as well. So it was not solvent at that time either, before our financial issues. So I don't really think that's as much a reflection as you're saying there.
All I'm saying, we don't have accurate numbers. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's
So
false. I think we do have accurate numbers.
I think we
we
need
have
to
accurate
take
enough
Because they're right
numbers.
here. We have a
just need to take a
contract that
year.
was signed on behalf of this town that states the amount. How is that not accurate?
I'm not talking about trash, I'm talking about the overall situation.
We're talking about the trash.
right now.
I understand that, but all this is part of the overall situation. You want to charge them. I'm just saying, we haven't been getting all the bills in, and I don't know how much, we're being shorted. I have no idea. I don't think you can tell me that either, because nobody can.
I can tell you that it was
So-
$10,000 because we sat here and looked at it on the screen. Am I incorrect,
$10,000
Mr.
the
Voigt?
actual amount. I'm talking about how much we're shorted coming in on revenue to pay that, is what I'm saying. So I don't know.
Well,
Nobody can tell us that.
What you were quoted before on all the projections was what we were supposed to take in, not what we actually got.
did.
Like, what we were working on for the budget that we came to, we were projecting the 85,000. The year-to-date on the thing I have in front of me here, we only took in 48. So the numbers are way off like you're talking about, but the projection was 85, which is 10,000 lower than the 95.
Okay.
So those aren't false numbers.
Okay.
But we're not even reaching the 85 according to the numbers that you're disputing, but we're not going to be over that.
I'm just saying, I'm just giving you my opinion that I don't feel that it should go up. The only thing we should do is a water rate at 15% until we get our own house cleaned out and know what money we have coming in.
You're
and how much
advising
bills.
that we should operate our line items at a loss of revenue, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Pull the money.
That's not good
Pull the
business.
money from somewhere else. It's not good business to, you can't accurately, you're not putting out accurate figures. The only thing you're putting out is what you should have been getting in and what you have no idea the amount that we are getting in.
Well,
nor
you
the
were
amount
mayor,
that we
you were
have-
mayor 2 years
that-
ago,
that
so
we
why
have
didn't you raise
lost
the rate then when we needed it
out
then?
there.
Because we were $10,000 behind then when the figures were right.
Understand that. But anyhow.
I just,
Yeah, I
I
think
just,
there's,
I mean, I'm part of this town too, and I have to pay this rate. I get that. But it's just like anything else. Business has gone up, gone up, gone up, gone up, and the money is not coming in. It's not just in the town and the trash and the water and the sewer. It's everything you look. Your groceries are going up. Everything's going up. It's got to be paid for. Now, we pay for that for our groceries. We suffer that. We have to take that in. When you go buy groceries, what was last year 200, now it's 300, you're still paying it. So you're going to have to do it on the rate because we cannot, as a town, be in the deficit and then say, well, we're just going to wash another $10,000 and let it go down to the town sewer drain. That's my opinion. But you're wanting us to do that, Mr. Mayor.
I think there's two different issues and you're merging them into the same topic. There is a loss of revenue on one line item that we are trying to correct and get back up to zero that line item out. Now, how the money's getting, I guess, attributed to that line item, that's a different topic, and that's not for this rate increase.
Has there been a motion on the floor yet?
There is no motion made. And this can be broken up. You don't have to make the motion to adopt the whole thing. If you come up to, that you want to make a motion to adopt 2 of the items,
Can I make a motion to adopt the trash rate increase as proposed?
I'll second that motion.
all right, we have a motion on the floor to accept the trash increase as it is at what, 7.5%?
No, sir,
he
Mr.
just
Mayor.
What are you
said-
talking about? I'm sorry,
he said
10.
trash.
10%.
Is that trash only, not the water and sewer?
What is it?
10%.
Okay, the trash. All right, for the 10% for the trash. I have a motion, I have a second. We'll take a roll call. Hooley,
Aye.
Aye.
Arthur? Randy,
Aye.
Valerie?
Can I make a stipulation? Am I able to do that?
I think you gotta make that in the motion.
All right, aye. Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
All right, trash passes, 10% increase. Now we have water and we have the sewer.
Oh, let's get it
Do I hear a
over.
motion making on the water and the sewer increase? Y'all evidently want to separate it out or keep it?
I'll make a motion to approve water and sewer rate increases.
Okay. I've got a first by Valerie.
I'll second it.
Second by Randy. And we'll take a roll call. Jean? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Dan?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Arthur?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Moving on. Item number 3. Item number 3 is to vacate the position.
Was that water and sewer? Did we do both at the same time?
Yes.
Yes, vacate the position of ex-officio to the Planning Commission. So this is a position,
Vacate,
vacate,
vacate or eliminate?
vacate.
Eliminate,
You want to eliminate?
correct. Did I use?
Yeah,
the-
y'all don't like me no more.
No, I used the
Eliminate.
incorrect terminology,
All right.
sorry.
So when you make a motion, it will be to eliminate the position, please.
That sounds worse.
Well, I,
All right,
that was, where am I?
so do I have a motion to eliminate the position?
I'll make a motion to eliminate the position of ex officio
All right,
to the planning commission.
I got a motion by Valerie, I got a second, second by Arthur. All in favor, say aye.
Can we have a little
Aye.
discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion, please.
Just out of curiosity, why are we vacating or eliminating the position?
you'll find out.
And why did we have the position? Is there any discussion on that? Just,
I started the position when we were in the planning of the comp plan. And Jeff was heavily involved in it when he was on planning. When he came council, he came off of planning, so I appointed him on there as just a special representative for it, not with a vote, but so he can finish with the comp plan, since he was heavily into it and knew a lot about it. So that's why it was started. That was it. Then it went on from there.
so why are we eliminating it?
Because at this point, it's not needed anymore. And because it sets a precedent that is not, it's just not a good precedent to set for the Planning Commission.
What I remember is that at the time, the Planning Commission was working on some things, and the idea was that Mr. Voigt could give some continuity to some large projects that they were working on. That's what I remember.
Yeah, and Andrea is right. Initially, it was during some Chapter 10 amendments when we were doing future land use projects and whatnot. And just what Mark said, I got put back on to kind of see through the end of that. Then over time, it sort of morphed into a little bit different. When I got reappointed in February, the verbiage at the time was slightly different. And since then, I've been involved with everything is part of the comp plan, technically when it comes to planning, but, rather than doing comp plan amendments, it's been zoning and ordinance. So it morphed into something different. So, it could use with a retitling period to continue that thing. We don't want to have a person in a position and then, redefine that position after they're already there, in a certain manner of speaking. But I can leave it at that.
So I guess the question I have goes to Mr. Webb. So we're going to vacate the ex officio, but then we're going to turn around and nominate or appoint a council liaison
Correct, because my term is over.
to the planning
As a
commission?
liaison, correct.
Understood. Okay, I'm tracking now.
But aren't you on the planning commission now?
All right,
My
any other
term is up
discussion?
In July.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, pass 100%. Moving on to number 2. Which is nominating and appointing the council liaison to the planning commission, because Vice Mayor Valerie Cole's term is up at the end of July. So I would like to open up the floor for any nominations.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Jeff Voigt to be liaison to the Planning Commission.
All right.
Second.
All right, I've got a first by Valerie, got a second by Jean. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, okay. All right, now I'd like to open up the public comments. Do we have any citizens that would like to come up and speak on behalf of themselves and state their name and address?
Jeff Seeley, Travis Street. And this is probably a little more than public comment, but let me first say that I was also on a commission for the General Assembly, so I had interactions with some folks in Richmond on a regular basis. So in those interactions, people would talk about different stuff, where they were from. So at the conclusion of a meeting, after your May meeting, I asked the head of DEQ some questions that we heard from the consultant the night that he presented the water report, the groundwater report. And he told me that he would pass my questions on, and I would hear from somebody. And I didn't think about it again. So in another phone call subsequent to that, for the 206 committee, he said, did I get my answers? And I was like, let me look. So I went back and emailed, and I didn't see them, but there in my spam folder lied the answers to the questions that I asked. So I emailed Scott Morris the email that he'd sent me and said, is this still all applicable? So I'm just the messenger. I heard what the consultant said. I listened to all your questions, and I asked the folks at DEQ if they could at least respond to some of what was said that evening. So I would have had this sooner had I known it was in spam, but I didn't, so here we are. He said, you wanted to know if the town could obtain 100 million gallon a year withdrawal. It was mentioned that a consultant provided an analysis at a town meeting in a discussion with staff, and in my staff, it's highly unlikely that a withdrawal of 100 million gallon a year permit would increase without a permanent surface water withdrawal permit. It is also not recommended that the permit submission or renewal application for 5 years in advance. DEQ has established a goal of having a 270-day review process. As a point of reference in the application renewal process, DEQ is now providing an upfront analysis of the current water withdrawal to show the applicant if there is a critical cell impact prior to submission of their application. This is done by a DEQ contractor, the most accurate and is the basis for the withdrawal amount in the permit. So that's what they're going to do. The effort is being done to save time in the renewal process, and in instances such as this, scenarios where there is an impact that will need to be discussed in advance, those discussions can occur sooner rather than later. So I heard the consultant say that you could submit the application 5 years in advance. I didn't know if that was true or not, and it didn't sound right to me. So that was my first question, and he insisted that 100 million gallons was doable, and I didn't want anybody going out on a limb for 100 million gallons and planning on it if you couldn't get it. I just asked those questions of somebody that was down there to see if we could get answers.
Who was the email from?
The email is from Scott Morris, Director of Water, Virginia Department of Environmental Quality.
Can we get a copy of it?
Yeah, I can send a copy.
Thank you.
But I did ask, just because there was so much discussion about doing the permit 5 years in advance, and our Public Works Director never really tried to do that and wasn't really sure if you could. And I'd already asked the question and then again didn't see the email come in.
Yeah, I would only say my experience in getting any state, federal permits, typically you either have to get those when it's time for renewal or you get those when there's additional need. And so when there's an additional need and projection, then that is an appropriate time typically to go forward and apply for things. Did he know that we have an additional need over and above what we are permitting?
I told him that there were applications for development, and I'm just reading what he said because he didn't give any indication there was any leeway, because that was part of my question to him. The renewal process sounded like the renewal process.
And then the critical cell analysis, that's something that that's what the consultant did on the first step of the DEQ program. And when DEQ was here originally, what they said is you need to hire somebody to do that. It's going to run about $5,000. And so that's what they did, and they update the model with the new DEQ criteria. And so that was kind of the basis for determining how much he felt like we could get as long as we could show the need and that we weren't impacting that critical cell.
I asked a question just to give everybody some clarity, because the county's in the same situation. And I don't have a warm fuzzy in my discussion with him that we're able to ask for an additional 5 years early either. I mean, even if we wanted to, I'm not sure that we can. It's a question to ask, but the consultant was rather, I think, insistent that you could start the application right away. And the process that's outlined from them is that they have a process. It's a 270-day process, and they provide you the data. That was the information I was kind of looking for, is what has to be given to them and what do they give to us as the applicants?
Well, and that's what the consultant, they got the data from DEQ. That was that modeling data, and so they had new updated data that DEQ provided to the consultant, to Stantec, and that's what they used to do the critical cell analysis. But I appreciate the info, but I think those are the steps that we had followed.
I do want to clarify again for everyone that back in 2016, the county looked on behalf of the town and observed their water and sewer system, right? So there's 857 connections documented in 2016. So using, and I confirmed this number with the Department of Health, of 300 gallons, you have to go with 300 gallons, and I understand you had said 2. They're leaning between 300 and 400. This permit does not add in extra growth. It covers what we should have now that we don't have. We're about 25 million gallons on an annual basis in a deficit. So we're at 70. We're hopeful to get to 100 million. At 857 connections back in 2016, that's an annual estimated usage of almost 94 million. And if you round that up to 900, which I would think we have 900 connections in the last 7 years, so we probably got another 40 connections. Speaking of everything that's across the street that's out of the town, there's at least over 40 connections. That takes us to 98,550,000. So we got a problem.
Even more reason to go after the permit now.
I agree with
Amen.
you, but that's for no further expansion.
I
That's to
just would
cover what
say,
we are
somebody needs to
obligated
ask
cover.
We are in public comments, please.
That's all right. I will say that we should have our DEQ permit for the Rappahannock River in August. Not that that gives us surface water or surface water capability anytime soon, but once we have that permit, our next step will be to put a grate in the water. That's about $11 million. We will look forward to we have 3 years to do that. So that will be the first step to guarantee surface water withdrawal. I don't know what their parameters are for that, but my suspicion is it's probably, you've got to start in some period of time, and I don't know what that'll be for us, but we are marching down that path.
I mean, so when do you think that timeline, I mean, realistically, to be able to access surface water?
We're gonna probably, once we get the permit, we'll engage an engineer. We've got an engineering firm, they will start planning that. So probably in about 24 months, because that plan's gonna take some time. Probably 24 months from, so in 2025 or 6, we should have an engineering plan for how where we would actually run the route, and the grate would have to be in the water by then. So that will give us a much firmer picture on when that would happen. But, I don't think we'll see the engineering much before 24, 36 months.
Now, do you have everything from the town? Like, does the county have everything from the town that it needs to be helpful?
That is
in
a
achieving
good
that?
question, and I will ask that question again. I have not gotten a solid answer, and
I have an answer.
Okay, good.
Joey Schiebel, I talked to Joey Schiebel recently, and he said that the letter that, it took 3 tries, but the letter that was finally submitted is acceptable, and we are part of the project.
So, and that's all good, because that's then lumped into our total withdrawal amount, which is more important than anything, because upping that amount for us is going to be difficult as well. But I will forward this to Allison to send to you all. Sorry I didn't get it sooner, but it probably doesn't matter at this point. It'd just be interesting to see if they will actually, I didn't get the feeling that they would let anybody start early. That was just my impression in talking to them.
Now, who is the DEQ director now?
Michael Rolban.
Right, okay.
And, again, he sent this, he asked Scott Morris to act. Scott Morris actually wrote this response. So he's the director of water. So it wasn't like the director of DEQ wrote this. This came from the folks that actually do the water side. But thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have 3 comments. Bonnie Cannon, South Main Street. I sort of think when I was up here a few minutes ago, the comment I was going to ask, and it kind of mentioned was not the appropriate place. Oh, now I answered under, delegations, I guess. Since that was a public hearing. I still want to an answer to why is there insufficient revenue to cover, you got to do all these rate increases because there's not insufficient revenue in the system. I would like an answer. Number, huh? It's on.
No, it wasn't, but mine was.
Oh.
You can come by and see Allison anytime you want to try to get some answers.
If y'all would pursue things I have mentioned in the past, I'd get a big grocery store here or a nice tavern restaurant to bring in some more revenue into the town. That might would help things too. And also, what's happening with all this meal tax money y'all are collecting? I've never seen such taxes I pay when I go to the restaurants in town. It's ridiculous what you pay in the meal tax. So where's all that money going? In over $200,000 a year coming into the town?
Got a lot of bills we got to pay. Like I said, talk to Allison. All that's public, she can tell you everything. Come on here, just, call up, make an appointment, come by and talk to her.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Bonnie.
No.
Bonnie, we went through a lot of that in our budget. I mean, I don't know how to answer it right now, but I mean, we went through everything in multiple public meetings that we had for the budget. I mean, and things were tight, but the one thing with the, the water, we needed to increase that, like Mr. Hooley said, because of DEQ required, USDA required it. But, for the sewer, I mean, we are really running a deficit for what it costs to treat every gallon and then what we're charging. It just runs a real deficit every year. And all of the expenses to treat and then all of the regulatory requirements, those things just keep increasing. And we have not increased sewer cost in years and years. And so they need to gradually get up. That 7.5% doesn't even come close to making it even. So those are just things that had to happen. And I think those increases are just going to happen over time. I don't like them any more than you do.
In regard to the water sewer bill, my bill went up last month, almost $20. I don't understand why yet, because nobody living in my house. My husband and I, we do absolutely nothing different than we did. I don't understand that either. So I'm wondering if there's some bookkeeping problem or issue.
You're more than welcome to come down here and ask the questions. You can get
Okay.
better answers that way, Bonnie, I promise you that.
Okay.
Here,
All right.
you get blank looks, but there you can get answers.
All right. Very serious side now, guys, okay? Y'all have a huge safety issue in town for pedestrians, okay? I have difficulty crossing the street when I park my car on the other side of the dollar store. I go up into that pedestrian crosswalk, I almost get hit. There's a huge issue and problem in town with safety. I can't even hardly get across the street in front of my own house. People don't stop, people don't yield to the pedestrians. I didn't grow up in this kind of world. I grew up in a world to yield to a pedestrian.
Do you think it's because of more traffic that's coming through, or people are just being inconsiderate, that go too
Both.
fast?
All of the above.
Yes, there's two crosswalks
I think you
on
need
Main
one
Street.
down on South Main, down here at Dorsey Lane, right there where all the churches are. You need some crosswalks there too. That is a busy intersection. The one up at the Dollar General, I use it all the time. I park my car and I go up to the crosswalk to go across. People don't stop.
The crosswalks are in front of the county admin building and in front of the courthouse.
Right. I don't use that one much. I use the one up for that. Anyway, I think as a safety issue for pedestrians in town.
I mean, is that something that we could have VDOT look into? Putting some additional.
We have, they won't put nothing. They won't put the thing in the middle like they got in Fredericksburg.
But I mean, are those things that we could take care of and do?
They won't let us do
through VDOT's
We could,
permission? Well, but I mean, just something else. I'm not talking about necessarily a median, but I mean.
we could have the police department issue tickets to motorists that don't yield to pedestrians.
Absolutely.
We can have them sit there and
Yeah.
watch for them.
There's also, have you seen in those crosswalks, like where if somebody's in it and you approach, it lights up and it makes, all those flashing lights? I think that is something that we might be able to put in.
All you can do is talk to VDOT. I've been here and we've talked to them till we're blue in the face about those crosswalks and what we can put on them or not. And it took us, a long time to get them to move to one because really our crosswalks are too close. So that's why it was out as far as it was. So they went ahead and moved it on in closer because it was a better place for people to cross instead of going all the way down in front of the county building and coming across. So they actually made it more usable. But VDOT, that's something that you individual council members talk to them and, call them up and see what they say, what they'll do. That's all it'll take.
Maybe it's the people we're talking to at VDOT, because this blank face here talked to Kyle Bates, who promised to put in a yellow divider line as soon as you cross over Chase to go to over 301, because people making a left turn think the right lane is where they turn from, or the left lane. He promised to do that. So blank face, we'll call him then, and let's see what we get. But maybe we need somebody else in VDOT to talk to, because he's not doing what we are requesting in some safety imagination of his world until someone gets hit by a car. Or there's an accident.
I talked to Kyle about 3 weeks ago on that same matter, and he says, what do you mean they hadn't done it yet? So he said he will get back into that crosswalk.
Yeah, well, this has been over a year now.
No, we've
A
been
year.
about 6-7 months, but anyhow, it's past the time they were going to do it.
Let's have a party
Kyle
when it
did
happens.
mention that when we met with
Yeah.
them. I'll follow back up with them because we do have some ongoing items that we're dealing with VDOT with our sewer project.
Yep.
So I'll try to bring both of those items
Yeah.
up down there.
Bring it
and
with him
that, see
because
what
he
we
did
can
say he'd
done.
get back onto it and see why.
And maybe we do need a walk down at Dorsey, because there is a lot of traffic coming off of that street to make a
That's a
right or left
possibility.
turn, excuse me. So
And
maybe
on
that's a
Sunday morning there
possibility.
with all the church people there, it is very bad.
That's a
Also,
possibility.
have they ever looked into putting speed bumps on each end of town, maybe?
No, I ain't gonna have it either.
I'm not talking about the ripple
We
ones.
can't even
I'm
put
talking
them
about
on
the
Martin
wide
Street
one.
hardly.
They-
There you go. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Bonnie. All right, anybody else for public comments? Seeing none, hearing none, public comments is closed. I'd like to open member comments. Members have any comments, any things they've done, events, calendar stuff?
Go ahead.
Okay, just thanks, Jeff, for coming out. Good info, good to be updated. Good to have the reminder to be cautious with stuff and be enlightened into the way that all the different organizations overlap and you hear different things from different folks. So we'll just see how the process goes. But thanks.
I'd just like to mention that our love sign is official. It is on the Virginia Tourism site. We have been added to their mapping system, so everyone who goes to the mapping system, prints it off, will see Bowling Green. So hopefully that will bring more people traveling to Bowling Green to take a picture with our sign.
Mr. Mayor, you advised that you had talked to Mr. Bates from VDOT. Is there any date on when they're going to show up? Because I was under the impression they were going to be here in March for our council meeting to discuss the SMART scale after I gave a presentation in February, and I've yet to see them.
Here's, I'll give you the update on the SMART scale. Dan can fill in too if I miss anything. The SMART scale, since it was granted, it was like, what, $11 million? Well, costs have gone up dramatically. So it is now back under a cost review. And once they do that, depending on how it comes in, whether it'll get scratched or most likely they will come to the town and say, your $11 million project just turned into a $17 million project. You wanted to go in, you got to pay the difference.
So did they send an official correspondence to the town, or how do we, if I didn't ask that, how would I know that?
Yeah,
Because
I know. That's, we found out when we talked with Kyle about it the other day. So that's when we got the official
is
notice
there
on it.
any
So-
other
Arthur,
pertinent information that you would like to give to council that?
No, what happened, Mark asked him about the SMART scale, what's going on. What I understood that he said is that, they feel like, costs have gone up. And so what he's trying to get a good answer on from the state is, is the state going to increase the budget for those items? And, you know, instead of it being 11, let's say it's 17, is the state going to cover that entire amount? He wants to know that. And if they say no, they're not, then the town would have to cover that. And once he had an answer to all of those and he had accurate information and could really give us something substantial, he was going to come and make a presentation. And I understood that it was going to either be at this meeting or our next meeting. He thought he would have that info, but that's all we got from him. It was nothing official. We were just kind of buzzing him, trying to see what information he had, and so that's where we are.
So we did not reach out to him after the February meeting to have him come for the March meeting?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so they just
Yeah.
disregarded our request to come?
He was, yes, he was asked to come, and he said he would be, what he told me, it'd probably be August. So then, since that time, now, whether he already knew that then, I don't know. And whether this came up after that we had talked about, I don't know. But I know we just, you know, we got the information. We were there on another subject, but we just happened to ask him because he was at the meeting, so.
I'm just a little confused. So we got approval for our smart scale for the 301 corridor, for the parking lot, for the sidewalks on Chase Street, whatever alleged amount they approved 2 years ago, I believe, 2.5 years ago. So now Mr. Bates is saying because of inflation, that is why it may change and the town may not get everything that we put in our proposal. Needless to say, we are not allowed to make any changes to the proposal, but they are. So to me, it sounds like they're changing the rules of the game for them and not for us. So they're willing to renegotiate, but we cannot.
No, that's not what he said. I think the Smart Scale project is approved at how it is. All of the items that are in that project, this is what I understand, but everything that's in there has to be constructed. And if it costs more than 11 million and the state's not willing to cover any additional costs, then the town would have to cover those additional costs. And if we're not willing to do it, then there is no project.
Correct, that's what I always knew, if you don't want to do any portion of it.
Yeah, so you can't do a portion of it, nor are they saying they will do a it's all or nothing from my understanding, but that's for him to answer. That's what he conveyed to us.
So why, when 2 years ago, or 2+, when we were approved, they didn't come to us, say, you're approved, let's start moving on this? Why was it held and no action taken? Because it hasn't been in front of town council.
The money hadn't been allocated until probably a year ago or so, because we were passed up from the first time of getting work done because council was on the edge of whether they wanted it or not. And they had already come to us and talked to us, and people were against it. So that's what they were waiting on. They were waiting on us to decide, do you or do you not? Well, that time came, they had money that got freed up, and that money got shifted somewhere else because we weren't ready. So it's all down to what does council want to do? Council's holding it up. It's not VDOT holding it up.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we're holding it up one bit.
because I don't
I
remember
mean, because
discussing it at
you
all.
had me give a presentation, which was 2 years after the fact, after I had a meeting with multiple county departments that were not in agreement with the scope of the project. And so I brought those concerns back in April of 2021 to council and informed the whole entire council at that time of the concerns of the sheriff's office and the fire and rescue department regarding the Smart Scale project.
Right, and that's why they're under the understanding that we don't want it done.
And we're holding it up?
We haven't approved, yes, that we haven't approved.
You just said that
them.
VDOT has to allocate more funding for it.
No. I said we were holding it up from the first go-around on the money because council has not decided if they wanted to do it or not. So VDOT passed us up. This is straight out of their mouth.
So they passed the project up.
No, they passed up that section of money. Instead of giving it to us to do the project, they gave it to somebody else. So our project is still there. The money is the other situation.
So shouldn't they have come to us and said, unless you make a
I would have
decision
thought
by?
so. I would have thought so.
Well, how many times were you in contact with Kyle Bates? Because we
Very
had a
seldom.
meeting sitting here, Gene, you remember Sean was here?
That was the last time I talked to
We
him.
had a meeting, when was that, last November? And Kyle his comments were, we're
waiting. He said he's waiting. We were holding it up until you made a decision. And we've heard nothing from him, and Mr. Hooley met with these people, and they still never came back, because you mentioned that twice last year. So
Met with two of the
I tend to
engineers
think
that
VDOT dropped the
agreed
ball,
that
not
their
us.
plan that they proposed to the town was insufficient. So I don't think it's in town council's hands. I think it's in VDOT's hands.
Well, either way, that's the deal of it right now. And so you can call Kyle and talk with him and see if he's got any other information that you might want to hear. But that's what we were told, so that's where we're at on it.
I mean, who is in charge of setting up meetings with VDOT? Like, who contacts? I mean, I'm assuming council members, we don't do it. Is that something that staff does, Allison?
Well, I can tell you, the last one, it was at the request of the mayor, and then it was canceled at the request of the mayor. So yes, I continued the meeting, which I'm allowed to do. I had a meeting with them, and I invited the sheriff's office and the fire and rescue department and the volunteers from the fire department. We all met. I took that information back and provided it to the council, and that was in April of '21.
And my only point is, I think we ought to make a formal request that he be here. I mean, when Mark and I went, we were just meeting on sewer issue on Main Street, and at the end of it, hey, by the way, where do we stand on this? And we're just giving you a little bit of feedback. But I think it's, we ought to, make a formal request to make sure that he knows that we value his presence here, and, we'd like to see it as soon as he can.
It sounds like a good idea, considering I think VDOT thinks that they're waiting on council, and council thinks they're waiting on VDOT.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. But we,
Yeah.
our conveyance was, hey, we were just interested, and my understanding is he was going to be here just as soon as he had an answer. But I think it'd be good to reach out to them.
I've got another topic, two of them actually. One of them, committees, I think that needs to be brought up. Seeing that the council voted to form a committee, and then, Mr. Mayor, you sent an electronic message back saying to abolish that committee that was just established. So I'm kind of lost on guidance on how to move forward.
Staff would also like to know if you want to have work sessions or subcommittees, or what's the pleasure of the town council?
No, it's not the staff wants to know, it's the mayor sets up the committees and workshops, work sessions. If you want to have one on a different date, by all means, different day of the week, whatever, by all means, that's fair. You can do it. Committees, you'll be right back in the same boat. Once you do a 2-hour session here in the two-person committee, you're gonna be right back in here discussing it, and meetings get twice as long. So it all works good when you're together. So if you don't want it on the meeting night, which is understandable because it's a long evening, then I think you all decided something about, what, third Monday of the month, you said? Yeah, I mean, so
I
be
believe
it.
that was decided.
I think you all had a consensus of something like a third Monday,
For what?
work session meetings.
So, Mr. Voigt, Mr. Webb, how's that committee of conservation that you're on working out?
Yeah,
We have not made any progress.
oh, okay.
Because the committee is non-existent because we don't have any, or because?
No,
No,
I would say
appointed that.
because I have not set up anything with Mr. Voigt, and that's
So
on
I guess
us.
that's the challenge.
And very
So,
informal, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, the council votes to establish a committee, you abolish it, and then you find a committee that you want, and you establish it, and it's okay. There's like a double standard here. We're just trying to clarify that, because the committee that the council set up was to oversee and
No,
conduct
you had,
personnel
you
hiring.
had 3 personnel on that committee. That's why I abolished it.
Okay, and you have
That
two,
that
which you asked me
becomes-
to be part of your water
That becomes
conservation.
an
I denied,
illegal.
so you would have had
I
3.
2 is all I was going for. You were asked before anybody else.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
so street
So
sidewalks and
we're not-
utilities
look.
have 3. Personnel ordinance.
I don't want
policy
3
had
people
3.
on it, because then you have to have, Allison's got to be here for it, minutes have got to be taken when you have 3 people. Other than that, it was an illegal meeting. You can't have it. So if you had 2, then I wouldn't have questioned it so much.
If-
But
if
you
you
had
have
Gene, you,
If you have 2 members of a committee, it's still subject to FOIA if they are from council.
right. but I'm talking about being an illegal meeting and having to have minutes and everything else. Look, employees need to be discussed in work sessions. If you want to pick a couple people that will go over and call them up and check the references, by all means do it. But why do you have to call it a separate committee? It's all in one work session. Have two people, call them up, check on them.
Well, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I mean, we at that meeting, we had a lot of discussion, and just council as a whole at the time felt like that was the, you know, kind of the fastest and best course was to have the two to kind of go through and vet. They had some experience, and just we as a group felt like that was the best thing, and because ultimately we're going to make the decision and vote, and we felt like that was appropriate. And so my question is, I mean, do we not have the authority to vote as a council to establish a committee? I mean, just from a...
That's a good question.
You do, Mr. Webb. 15.2.14.11 says the governing body of any locality may appoint such advisory boards, committees, and commissions as it deems necessary to advise the governing body with regard to any matter of concern to the locality. Members shall be appointed to serve at the pleasure of the governing body.
So that state law, the local ordinance says it's the mayor. So I guess the state law also has to be accounted for, so council can, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have room in our charter and code for the council to make those decisions as well, but it does definitely carve out the mayor's authority to create them.
Okay, so if you want to vote on one, you just heard the state law. I don't know it either.
And Mark, I don't think it was any intent in going, you know, against what your thoughts were. I'm not sure if you were at the meeting, but we just, as we discussed it as a group, we just felt like that was the best course at the time, just to try to go through and vet and try to get to a decision point. And it, you know, I didn't think it would be contentious at all, since we were all in agreement and voted on it. So, you know, at no point was it, at least never my intention, to thwart any of your, you know.
No, and I didn't
So I don't want you to take it that way, because that's not
No.
at all how it was.
I think people should call and vet them out. I really do. You know, you got one at home here and one live over here at home. You call, you come together, you know, and you present it to everybody. I agree with that. I mean, but if you want to commit a committee to it, I mean, elect a committee to it, you know, you just heard that you have the right to do it now, so that's fine.
My last comment I have is in regards to the action item that we had in the last meeting regarding CoBank and that lease agreement that we have, or loan term agreement. So I think there needs to be some work put into that, because we as a locality have already spent close to $1 million in interest that we are not going to get back. And we have a deadline on that project, if I'm correct, that has to be completed. And there's a lot of things that need to take place. And we just renegotiated the term of that loan agreement with a deadline for all that to take place. So I don't know a whole lot about that. That was before I was on council here, but that's fairly important, you know. We're talking about a $10,000 rate increase to get trash up, but we've exhausted almost $1 million, and there hasn't been a lot of work, or I guess we're still far from the completion on that project. I mean, I think a while. So that's something that I would like to somehow start getting back on here, because all this other stuff, I think this is something that's major. I mean, I understand we've got, luckily, we've got ARPA funds, and Mrs. Cannon, some of our repairs have come out of that, and that's not at the expense of our citizens. So that's good. We've conserved that money since we received it. We did have to spend roughly $100,000 on water repairs, and we've got another agenda item, number 13, this evening to discuss that. But this is a huge topic and a huge issue.
Mr. Hooley, would you like to make that into a motion for it to be put on the next council agenda for discussion and development of next steps?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we discuss the USDA CoBank financed project at the August meeting.
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Do you want to put on there discussion and updated information?
Sure.
All right, we're going to add updated information on that as well. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, aye has it, nays? I don't hear none. Motion carries 100%. So that's going to be added on the next month's
Mark, I
agenda.
got something I want to bring up
Okay.
too in the member comments. You had worked with VDOT as far as getting these sidewalks ground down, which has been good. Good rapport coming in from the people doing it.
Good.
Alice and I were walking the street the other day, and there's still some issues. The ones I want to direct is the alley going in between Stork's buildings and those curbs, they're all broke up. And I mean, they got big holes, and I thought they were supposed to fix that as well. Is that for a different date, or what's happening with that? Because, I mean, the curbs are all broken down, and there's big holes, and they were major trip hazards. We looked at it, and we thought that was all part of the program, and I'm just wondering where that's at with that.
Yeah, I had talked to him about those when this project was coming up, and he said that was going to be different because all they were going to do was just grind down the edges. But I'll need to get with what's his name, the guy up here on Route 2 again. I will contact him again because he would be the one that would be taking care of that. Kyle, is that his? Oh, no, what's his name? I can't either. Anyhow, I will definitely contact him about that again because I've been on him persistently, about that.
I mean, they're bad. I would say those two curbs on that alley are probably worse than some of the trip hazards we had that they ground off on the sidewalks.
I agree 100%.
The bad ones are kind of why that's the case. There was, I can't remember the measurement, but there was like if it was so high, they couldn't grade that because the angle would be too high.
Yeah, the curbs got to be rebuilt. That's what's got to be done.
And the ones that
Yeah.
need to be rebuilt. There's one near your store.
Yeah, right there at the store, that alley area
Yeah, that
there.
one too.
And I mean, that's a major walk-through area in both north and south, and coming from the alley parking to go to all the businesses. I mean, it really needs to be addressed.
Yeah, but that first pass was just like with the grinder.
Yeah.
They still did several hundred of those.
Oh, they had quite a few of them to do.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have
Yes.
one item. As I walk along Main Street, the curbs just seem to have lots of trash and debris and grass and, especially when you come right into town from the north, especially on the right-hand side. I mean, what is there, at one point, the town had purchased street sweepers, and we had a program where we maintained and kept things nice. I know the city of Fredericksburg, I mean, they take care of their downtowns and make sure that they look nice. And sometimes I feel like when we come in certain areas, things just don't look maintained at all. And what can we do as a town to ensure that? I mean, is that something that we can hire somebody on a monthly basis, bi-weekly, to come in and kind of sweep and do some things, especially mainly just along Main Street and along our commercial, or I do all of Main Street, but I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels, if that's really a concern or something we should spend money on, but it really bothers me. It always has.
So we looked into purchasing a street sweeper last year. We didn't do that. Actually, this year we even reduced the number of times the street sweeper comes through to try to help the budget. But if what you're asking specifically is for that area of Main Street where the businesses are and in front of the courthouse and all that, I can certainly get our public works staff we can have them do specifically that area, and if that helps, is that the area you're talking about, or all of
Well, I mean,
town?
really, I'd like to see all of Main Street
All
done.
of
Just,
Main
when you
Street.
come into town, you want things to look nice. You don't want a
Yeah.
lot of debris and junk and trash. It just, it gives that first impression that's not good. And just something I hate to see. And I don't know if I'm the only one, and I could be. I don't know.
No,
I'm even talking about, yeah.
I think part of the problem is all of these landscapers who come and mow. They mow and the grass debris is just left there. They don't clean it up. And that, unfortunately, is all over the sidewalks and the street, especially on Milford as well. So I absolutely agree with you. I don't know why they can't clean it. The people are paying for them to do that, to be clean in front of their house, so you would think they do it. So, I don't know.
Let me talk to Public Works and see if we can work out, at least try to put some effort towards that. I'll talk to them. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we
Yes, ma'am.
go too much farther, I just didn't know if what the resolution of the committee discussion was. Is there a request to put that on the next agenda also?
I guess it depends on if we're going into closed session this evening.
I mean, if they want to call these people and, get check the references,
If we're going into
By all
closed session
means.
to discuss that topic of personnel and hiring, then I think we could discuss that in closed session. Is that correct?
We can discuss hiring, but we can't discuss committees.
Well, I think that would, I think the answer would come up on if we're able to move forward. And then if we aren't, we could come out and see if we need to set up a committee or if we need to do something.
Okay,
I mean, I'm gonna be honest now. I didn't do anything because after we voted to do it, it was abolished. So
I just didn't want it to fall through the cracks.
I'm with you. I think if we're discussing it this evening, maybe discuss it. Are we able to circle back to that topic before we adjourn?
Yeah.
all right, we're done with member comments. All right, moving on to staff reports. Public Work is not here. Anybody have any questions that Allison might be able to answer? Police chief could not be here. He had to go relieve his mother at the hospital. His dad's back in there. Town treasurer. Anybody have any questions for either Allison or Patricia? Trish? All right. Town manager report, anything extra from what you've already?
I just have one thing. I wasn't going to read it at first, but since the issue of the love sign came up, and I think maybe we all need to remember some of these things that this letter is about. So if it's okay with council, I'd like to read it. It says, to Bowling Green Town Council, greetings. My name is Yolanda Cephas Johnson. I'm the daughter of John Cephas. Am I pronouncing that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which he adopted the name Bowling Green John Cephas for his profession of singing Piedmont blues. My family recently discovered that our father's picture is on the exhibit, the word love, in front of Town Hall. I had the pleasure of seeing the exhibit on this past Saturday, June 10th, when I attended a wedding ceremony. I was so excited to share with family and friends that day of the exhibit with my father's picture on the O. All I kept saying, if my father could see it, he would have been so honored and grateful of the town to recognize his accomplishments and legacy. So I am writing this letter to thank Caroline County, the town of Bowling Green, and each and every one that was involved in selecting our father to be on the love exhibit. Thank you all for spreading love. I no longer live in Caroline County. I moved after I lost my father, then mother. But I can truly say I miss Caroline County very much, the warm and friendly atmosphere. I can understand why my father said, of all the places he traveled, he was glad when he came home. He loved Caroline County so much, he called himself Bowling Green John Cephas. Again, the Cephas family is grateful for the kindness and love you all have spread for our father, even still in death. Thank you all very much. Yolanda Cephas Johnson. In addition, after reading this letter to our baby sister, Laverne Cephas, she reminded me about the instrumental song our father wrote entitled Caroline in the Morning. She asked him what inspired him to compose that instrumental song, and he told her when he was on the road, he saw a whole lot on the road as he traveled, but when he got home and woke up in the mornings and looked out his big window in his living room, he saw the trees and the sun, which felt so peaceful, and it was something about Caroline County in the morning that brought him much peace. The Cephas family would encourage anyone that has not heard this music to listen to it, and the love and peace of Caroline County will be felt. That's all.
If I see no objections, I'll move to pass the consent agenda.
Second?
No, Daniel.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Mr. Mayor and Council, the emergency sewer repairs that Council originally approved ARPA funds for $300 for, it exceeds that amount because the person who had that quote withdrew. And so what I'm requesting now is a couple things to choose the contractor and approve the $600,000, to approve $600,000 for the repair of the sewer. We did, actually, Dan Webb and Mark Gaines did talk to VDOT and accomplished getting the project scope down. And so there was a rebid from one of the applicants. And so it came in under 600,000. I did contact the other remaining applicant, and I haven't heard back from him. So I wanted to be fair and make sure that he understood that VDOT had reduced the scope of the work that was required. And so right now you have two proposals, and then approving ARPA funds for $600,000 to repair the sewer.
All right, so the one that is out there that is in the running is Pruitt. And I think last time y'all met, y'all had the consensus that that's who y'all were going to go with. At least I think Dan had said something about that. Was that right?
I mean, I said they're certainly qualified.
Right, okay. And VDOT was very glad that they were the ones we were going with, all together, because of their knowledge, the experience, and their manpower. But we have Pruitt, and then we have David Brooks Holland. Now, he came in, well over 6, and then he did not rebid to come down, which was only about, $20,000 or $60,000? What was that saving?
The savings was 70,000.
70,000, okay, thank you. So, it was a nice little savings. So it brought the total cost down. Where are we at now with the cost? Do we know? Have an idea? I don't have it up in front of me.
It's a little under 600,000. It's in the 500,000.
It's a little under 5. I thought it was 5 to begin with, or was that David was up over 7 then? I won't be able to find it quick. The main one in the running is Pruitt, who was the lower bid. So we need to do two things, I guess. We need to appropriate funds, and we need to go ahead and give approval to get Pruitt. Because what we're holding up on,
So,
that?
or do we have an official correspondence that the other proposal is not going to rebid, or?
Don't have that yet.
did you
Okay,
not
so-
give him a deadline?
I haven't gotten a hold of him yet. I left a message, so.
Okay.
I think, to be fair, I need to finish my contact with him to make sure that he does not want to rebid. And, and then I will, if necessary, I'll ask council if we can meet to make that final decision as quickly as possible. If he doesn't want to rebid, then we have, I just don't
Then all
know
we
at
have
this
is
point.
Pruitt, so.
Then you have Pruitt.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we need to keep in mind, VDOT said we have to complete the project
Yes.
between July the 4th, which is passed,
Right.
and before school starts. Now, whoever does the project is going to need lead time on ordering of materials. That's very important. And then they're going to
Manholes.
want at least 3 weeks to complete it, 3 to
Yeah.
4 weeks. So, I mean, it's a very tight timeline. So,
And one of the big things is the manholes, we got to get the shot on those, and they got to put them on order, or
yeah,
the
I'm
standard.
getting, I think that, there's coordination to have the manhole pumped down tomorrow to get the final shots for the manhole. The north manhole, that's been full of sewer the whole time. So I know that's happening tomorrow. But,
Okay.
if you are unable to complete it before school starts, then you no longer can shut the road down, and there goes your savings.
Yeah, because we got them to allow us to close that whole section down from traffic light south onto like the first turn off into the Walgreens to that right there. So it only affects one person to get in and out. And we'll just have to coordinate that with whoever, Pruitt hopefully, and the people to get in and out of their house. The other house on the corner has got a side entrance into their house. So by closing the whole road down, we can get it done quicker, faster, don't have to asphalt it in the evening times and then dig it back up. We can just plate it, and move on. So that was able to save us some money.
So this quote that we have from June 9th, this accounts for the 70,000 in deduction, or it does not?
Is that the one from Pruitt?
Correct.
Yeah, it should, that's the latest one that came through, isn't it? Yeah, that's,
Well, the total is 585.
That's it.
It does not.
So I don't have a copy of that adjustment then. And then I also,
I think it was didn't you pass it out at our last work session? I thought you did.
I seen one with the savings and everything on it,
Let me go
so.
print it off.
I have
Maybe
seen
I'm-
it.
I think that'd be a good idea to
No,
print it.
that's probably-
I thought you had passed it out at the last meeting that we, yeah,
I thought I saw an
you did. I
email
mean,
on
you
it.
passed it out, because we all had a discussion on it.
Is it, I have an idea. Is it
June 9th?
okay to move this to after the closed session, so it gives me time to print this again? And I'll try one more time to get a hold of David Brooks to make sure that,
All right. Y'all want to move this to
Did
the
you leave
end?
him a message and he just didn't call you, Allison?
yeah, but,
Well, anybody can return a
Hey,
phone call.
June 9th is the date, I think.
I say forget it.
Yeah, that should be the one with the savings in it,
well, if you look at it,
because we only had one come through
it's
there.
519, and then
Okay.
it says add
That's it.
I think that's it.
65. So
Yeah.
we don't add the 65?
That's it.
So wouldn't that be minus? It's 519, and then it says
519.
right below it, add
Yeah,
North
I
Main
think that's
Street.
a potential if you need the detour, which we're not going to. But we ought to get clarification, but that's the latest.
Well, they also have a line item on the first topic for a rent-a-cop, which, I mean, if we have police presence that's able to, then I would ask to remove that line item. So,
Right.
I mean, that one item, I think that may be a good idea to run through, but I think that those are some potential change orders if you did not get the detour around. It's my understanding, but Arthur, you may want to get Allison to get clarification on that for you.
so this is North Main Street, single lane flagging without detour for duration of project. So that would be,
That's if it's a single lane and you don't have the detour.
and that would
Yeah.
be to add 65,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, your mic, Mr. Mayor, your mic's off.
I'm sorry. You know, we can, you know, we talked to them nicely, so explain how badly we're broke. And, you know, we got them to do some leeway. And their biggest thing is asphalt too. I mean, so the whole road will have to be asphalted. We couldn't get away with that going halfway. So it's gonna have to be all done, milled down and asphalted. So, you know, they're about beautification too, they say.
So is this, are they going to give us a formal contract, or are we just working off this bid?
They have given a contract, I
Sorry.
believe.
Oh.
Right, Allison?
That's it.
Okay, that's it? That's
Well, there was a estimate, and then there was a contract that went along with that.
Right,
There were
that's what I
two
was
separate PDFs that were emailed over.
I
You
will,
should have both of them.
I
I
will
don't
print
know.
that for you while you're in closed session.
So,
But
My-
we do have it, so that, okay.
question, has anyone met with any of the other applicants that submitted bids to explain the difference in the scope and to renegotiate with them? Or are we just doing it
The only
for
one we
one
got is
contractor?
David, and that's the one she's been trying to get a hold of.
That's the
because-
one, yes.
Yeah, because.
I understand that, but it
Lanford
seems like
dropped out.
Langford
You-
has
You
withdrawn.
negotiated with this contractor then?
Not with
No.
Pruitt.
Okay, so,
Uh-uh.
so did
Dan,
you guys
Yeah.
negotiate with the other contractor that submitted?
I
No,
haven't
we
negotiated with
talked
anyone.
about it.
no,
Okay,
so there was
what I'm getting
Langford.
at
We
is-
went to VDOT and we went through, and so there was they were advised, and maybe I advised them that that was a change in scope, so maybe that's negotiating, I don't know. But Allison was going to get in touch with Brooks to allow him to know that there was a change in scope with that detour that we were given, and what she's saying is he has not returned a phone call, but
Right.
the intent was that he needed to be let know, be made aware of that.
I just don't see the same consistency between the contractors and the discussion, if that makes sense. So either VDOT or a council member contacted this one, and then the town staff's gonna contact the other. I'm just trying to make sure everything's fair, because this is a serious project. I personally did not know that we were under a time limit on this, so, I mean, with
We talked
material
about it at our
shortage,
last meeting.
We're,
At the last meeting, we talked about that.
okay, so we're sure that we can even acquire these materials in the next 6 weeks.
Yes.
One of the biggest thing is the
Okay.
manhole. The manhole will be the holdup, depending on how long it will take them to manufacture 2 manholes.
So did
They
anyone
said it
know
could be
the,
3 weeks, so that's why we need to get them pumped down, get them shot measured, get the specs out so they can, are these standard? No. Okay, then we gotta, manufacture them. So, and how long of lead time that is.
So I just have to ask, just so I have this right in my head, how much are they charging? Because I'm hearing a lot of different things. I know there was a $70,000 drop. Does that bring it to the 519? Does the contract specify 519? Are there any stipulations to that? I just,
I mean, the numbers the 519. But
Okay.
certainly there are stipulations that, someone needs to read.
Well,
But,
that's,
one
yeah,
thing
we've
I
never
don't
seen
understand,
that.
if we
Okay.
are reaching out to Elson, we've told everybody what the number is now.
Now we just need to know if there's any additional, okay. And you have that, okay. So, right.
Yeah, I guess I
Okay.
apologize. I'm confused because I remember sitting on the other side of the room saying that, hey, if we can pump and haul for this price, this buys us plenty of time. Obviously this is an urgent matter and we need to get it fixed, but I thought that was the agreement, but I think I missed something.
All right, so we do have need a motion if we want to approve, go ahead and then appropriate some funds towards this project that we got to do anyhow. So do I have a motion to approve $600,000 for repairs for the emergency sewer repair on Main Street?
Allison had requested that we come back to this because she wants to contact Mr. Hooker.
No, that was on a contractor. This is for the money. Yeah, this is for the money.
The action says discuss bids, choose contractor.
I know.
approve money. Are you taking choose contractor?
Yes,
out?
yeah, we're just
Say
making,
that.
yeah,
Make sure.
I didn't say contractor, though.
So-
I said bid, money.
I put all of these in case council wanted
That's
to be a
okay.
part of any or all of these, because certainly in the places I've worked, staff has handled it from beginning to end,
Yes.
but I understand that council may want to make their own decisions,
So what's your pleasure?
yeah.
Somebody give me their pleasure. If not, we're gonna move on.
I'll make the motion to approve the bid, the funds,
For how much? 600,000, sir? All right, I got a-
600,000.
I got a motion to approve $600,000 for repair of the sewer
Do you need to specify that from the ARPA funds?
from the ARCA funds. Thank you. From the ARCA funds. I have a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I can second it.
Here.
We're otherwise going to do it at the end of the night anyway.
I have a second. Any further discussion? That was Jeff Voigt, by the way. Any other
This
discussion?
is with the stipulation that we have to approve the contractor before it can be spent, correct?
I don't see why, but if you want to add the stipulation in there, I mean, go ahead. You can make it as long as you want, but.
Well, that's
We're gonna
it.
spend
I
it
mean-
on the sewer project fund, the emergency sewer.
I was just
repair.
trying to get forward through the agenda, but I don't want to do it completely backwards, so yeah, it would have to have the stipulation, we have to pick the contractor.
Okay.
Randy, you all right with that? My second is conditional on, we still have to stipulate the contractor before it can be spent.
I'm on board with that, yes.
Okay.
All right. So does somebody want to repeat the motion? So we don't have it all botched up? Please.
I will make the motion for the funds for the fix the sewer of $600,000 from the ARPA funds on the stipulation that we still have to pick the contractor we're going to choose.
Very good. Thank you, sir. You agree with that second?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I still have a
I just
second.
want to clarify, so the purpose of the motion is, what are you doing with the money?
We're moving the money to be able to pay the contractor, is my understanding.
Appropriated from the ARPA funds, or giving us permission to use the money from the ARPA funds to pay the contractor, to fix the sewer.
For the emergency
For the
repairs?
emergency repairs, yes. Yes.
Okay, so may I clarify it? So the motion is to authorize payment of the emergency repairs out of the ARPA funds for the repairs that have already occurred, with the understanding that for any future work, another contractor will be, or other contractors will be looked at and a new one may be selected. Is that correct?
No, because no repairs have been made yet to date. We're pumping and hauling. I think
So
it's
the
to
This is to
utilize
start it.
the ARPA funds
For the
for
pumping
the
and hauling?
emergency
No,
repair.
no. For the repairs.
But when are you going to pick the contractor?
Well, personally,
next couple of days.
I think we need
Yes,
to hear from
very
all of them
soon.
before.
Very soon.
Allison's already been doing that.
I'm just trying to keep you from having confusion.
But I was confused on that.
So is the motion to authorize the expenditure of the up to $600,000 in ARPA funds for the purpose of conducting the emergency repairs
Once we pick,
contingent upon the town manager polling council members individually and reaching a consensus on the contractor? Is that?
That's basically what it is, yes.
yes,
Okay.
basically, yes. Just longer words.
You got it?
All right. So now we got the first and we got the second on the motion that was read by the town attorney. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Okay. Jean?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And Arthur?
Yes.
All right. 600,000 it is, and we'll pick a contractor in the next few days. Moving on. Item number 14 under new business, if I'm on track. Approve split account for general funds in water/sewer.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if this takes longer than 30 seconds, then we can just put it on the next agenda. It's not really important for tonight, and I know you have still a long way to go. So the idea is that in most localities, you have different accounts for water and sewer and for your corporate account and, or your general fund account. And so then you know to the penny what money is in your water and sewer and what money is in your general fund, because really the water and sewer account should support all of the water and sewer repairs. And if it doesn't, then you know that you have the wrong rate. So I don't have the total amount that out of your over $3 million that's in your one account. I don't have the total where it should be split. So what I'm asking tonight is just to create the two accounts. We can start putting money into your water and sewer from here forward, and I will get back to you on how much to move over at a later date on that total.
I'd be happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, I got a first by Jeff, I got a second by Randy. Anybody want to discuss it? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries 100%. Moving on. Wish they could all be like that now. 15, ADA compliant parking spaces on Main Street.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this request came from someone who identified themselves as a citizen. That is still unclear to me, but it came from someone who would like one of your ADA compliant parking spaces moved as close as possible to the intersection of on Main Street, as close as possible to Milford and Chase. Right now, your two parking spaces are closer to the front of the courthouse. One's in front of the courthouse and one's in front of the Taylor. So I just need to get back to them as to whether their request will be granted. I thought that it was VDOT. I know that VDOT 2 years ago decided where to put the 88 parking spaces, and they did it out of safety, pushing them a little bit further so that they weren't near that intersection because there's a lot of turns there and congestion. And so they put them in, I believe, what was the safest places possible. But this person just said that they wanted it moved
I mean, my thought,
wondering-
that's
to that other
something.
intersection.
Hold on, Daniel.
Okay.
This was brought up, and Allison come down and talked to me, and we walked the streets. And everything is on the north end of the business district, okay? Which is good. You got Just Desserts, you got Los Dos Amigos, that's good. They need them up there for it. But how many of these spaces do we really need? What's required for the number of parking spaces we got? Now, we could accommodate them, Alice and I were looking at it. We could accommodate them if they want something on the lower end of town, I mean, on the south part of town. Would not necessarily mean put it on Main Street. We looked at it, and possibly the first parking space past the back of the alley behind the Heist, which would be right in front of the furniture store. Now, from that point, they could come on, and there's the alley ramp. They could get up that ramp, get on the sidewalk to go to the lower end of businesses there. They could go into the furniture store if it ever gets going, and it also gives them access to go right across over to the ice cream place now too. So I think instead of trying to move a space that we have on the north end, we just put another one in front of the furniture store, which will accommodate the south part of town.
So are you saying that they will use the driveway?
It's an alley driveway. It's not really a driveway at all. It's put in a curb there. People do use it for a driveway, but it is not supposed to be an access through
Right, but it
point.
has an apron on it.
It has an apron on it, yeah.
You want someone possibly in a wheelchair or disabled to use that, and a car may be coming out? Would VDOT even allow something like that? I can't even understand how that
So
wouldn't be a safety issue.
Evidently, I thought it was a VDOT decision.
And it's not?
They said that they called VDOT, and VDOT, this is an advocacy group in Fredericksburg, and they called VDOT, and VDOT said it was the town's decision. If that is correct, then
Well, I just,
no.
I don't mind even
But
putting in another
to go
additional
in, I mean, they don't have to
The
use the apron. I mean,
Fredericksburg residency.
the door that they're gonna get out and use is gonna be right on the sidewalk side in front of the furniture store. They wouldn't necessarily have to use that apron of that road, but it would get them on the sidewalk to go down to the corner store, to go across the street to Betty Ann's flower shop, and then cross over to get to the ice cream parlor. They don't necessarily have to use that apron. Because when that van pulls up on the road, if this is a sidewalk and the van pulls up this way, they're gonna be parked on the right-hand side when you're going down Chase. Their handicap door is gonna come out on the right-hand side of the van. They're gonna be right on the sidewalk in front of the furniture store.
What if they're driving? Then they have to come out on the left.
If they're driving, most people, I don't know, what I've seen when people are in a handicap, they come through they don't come through out of the driver's door. They come out of the backside because they're working with their wheelchair ramp to open up the door to get down onto the sidewalk.
But not everyone who is disabled uses a wheelchair.
Well, what's your recommendation, Valerie? You tell me.
I'm just saying, I find that to be a safety issue from even parking right there with the apron and cars coming in and out of that area. I mean, is there a reason they signified Milford and Chase Street? Why do they want it down at that end? Is there something
Because
there?
everything is up on the north end and they want something down there. Apparently they're frequenting something down there. I have no idea.
So, I mean, can we add another one?
But I mean, I think from what we understand, it's up to us if we want to add one. It's not VDOT, but it's,
I mean, I just gotta ask, so we could turn them all into handicap, and it's up to our discretion and not VDOT's?
Well, see,
I
I'm
told
thinking,
the advocacy group that it was VDOT.
I'm thinking it's VDOT too.
And VDOT said that it was, whoever they contacted somebody named Jennifer at VDOT, and Jennifer told them it was the town's decision.
That really does
They
sound
put it right back on
odd.
me,
Yeah.
and I'm saying, okay, I'll take it to council and ask
why-
council.
oh, we could go one step further then. There's another thought process in this. We got the municipal parking lot over by the Masonic Lodge. We could blacktop one space there, make it handicap, and they get out on whatever side of the car they want in a parking lot, and they can go wherever they want, period, done and over with.
As a reference, there are 21 painted spaces on Main Street, just to point that out.
And of those 21, 2 are?
Correct.
Handicap, right.
Why can't we just make 3? Put one on, another one on Main Street?
You are losing an additional parking space then. I just want
If
to
you keep it on Main Street,
point that out.
Handicapped person, to me, that's not a loss, that's enabling someone else.
But can I make,
a handicap spot, I mean, only one person can park in. Handicap person can park in all the other spots. And there's no difference in any of those spots there, except there's an apron ramp near the other one, so, and somebody in a wheelchair. We used to have one that was right in front of Los Dos Amigos, and it didn't have a ramp. And it was handicapped, you know? I understand that. I understand that. But an open spot doesn't mean handicap can't park in it.
can we have, you know, when Kyle
But why
comes,
is this even up for discussion, I mean, for motion?
I mean, when Kyle comes, can we ask him what his advice from a VDOT perspective is? You know, in terms of safety, how close can we locate that? And it may be good to consult with the town attorney to determine what legally we are allowed to do and not do when it comes to that, or right, what the requirements are. But if we do put a handicap space, what requirements are there for access? I mean, do we need to, I mean, just painting a handicap spot, does that really, you know, I guess the question is, does that meet the requirement legally? And then, but I think it'd be good to consult with Kyle, and I think it's something that we really need to look into.
Even if
And then make a decision.
assuming that it is their decision, just want to bring up one other part. Back when they did the lines for these spaces, you know, there was some discussion, and one of those concepts just to bring out is the idea of the site triangle. When they were measuring how far, because we have some 18-foot spaces, some 22-foot spaces, and there was some thought put into where those 22-foot spaces would be, because those are going to be more likely your large trucks that closer to an intersection are going to block visibility, which that comes into play with a handicap space as well. You know, some of those are, you know, normally going to be a little larger and might have the larger vehicles. Not all of them, but, you know, some do have the large wheelchair access. So placement is certainly important.
I'll contact VDOT.
So, all right, so we'll just bring this up to another time, once you do some more researching or whatever. I mean, you know, it's, unless somebody wants to make a motion on something.
I'll contact VDOT.
Okay. Number 16, 16, that was 15. All right, now 16, we added parking on Main Street. Randy wanted to add this on there.
Yeah, the reason I want to add it, I brought it up several times before already, and it's about employees, business owners parking on Main Street, blocking the front of businesses. Yeah, I do have a business that I manage on Main Street, but it's not just my business. They're blocking other businesses, and we're trying to help the businesses in town. And I feel we need to spend maybe a little bit of money and get some parking signs that say limited 2-hour parking. The day something happened, and it really got me upset, and I talked to my owner of the hardware store about it, and I had a very long discussion with a gentleman tonight. And I've got pictures on my phone, and I took them at different intervals of the day so people would know that I'm not pulling anybody's leg. This guy pulled up there today at 8:10. He parked his car. He moved it tonight at 4:30. I called the company at 11:30 this morning and told him that, yes, it is public parking, but you've been there all day, and, you know, have some courtesy. He come in at 4:30 tonight. Oh, I just got your message. I'm here to move my car. Well, you've probably seen this car. It was up here at the corner of where the auto shop is, or the auto sales place is at the old bank. It's a little car. It's wrapped, and it talks about some dentist office in Carmel Church. When I called, his secretary said yes. He parked it there and he left the area. He's using it for advertisement. He's had it for advertisement, using spaces up at the car shop too. Allison told me there is a law on the books that they cannot do that. We need to somehow enforce that, because out of all the businesses, why he picked me, I don't know. But my store, out of every store on Main Street, I got 60-pound bags of concrete, I got bags of dirt, I got 10-foot pipe that I got to get out of there, and my space is is blocked, and everybody else is just carrying out bags of food or something similar, small. Am I being biased? Maybe a little bit, but the thing is I'm a manager of a business. I've got to run that business, and having somebody park there for 8.5 hours is ridiculous. And something needs to be done about it.
If there's a law in the books, why aren't we enforcing it?
Well, this just come up with, it's a law that
it
is
just
a
happened
car that
today.
is wrapped for advertisement doing something like this.
But that's not, there's two problems here. One is the sign issue, sign violation, but the other is that any car could park, not just one that happens to be in violation, but any car could park for, all day.
And we have that too. We have several employees of businesses there that park on Main Street. We only have 21 spaces, like you said, Jeff, and there's probably 5 employees that park on Main Street and take up 5 of those spaces all day long during business. I mean, I hear it all the time. We have a parking lot in the back, and a lot of our contractors use that. Okay, thank God we have that. But they all come in and say, there's never no parking on the Main Street. You look out the road, you look up the road, I see 2 or 3 cars on there that are employees, and they don't care. They don't even care for their own businesses, because they'll park right in front of their own business. But I mean, I think something needs to be done about it. And what is a couple signs going to cost to have where it says minimum 2-hour parking, 1-hour parking, and then enforce it? But we need to get these people off the street.
You'll need a parking ordinance.
Can I ask,
I thought we had a 2-hour one on the books because we used to enforce it. There used to be signage on the roads. So
what's,
I don't know. I don't know if
I'll look.
it was a real ordinance or we just had signage out there but go ahead, go ahead, Arthur.
what's the signage issue, Allison?
The signage issue is that you can't have a car that is clearly advertising a business that has a sign on it and I can find that for you as well, but.
Just so you all know, it wasn't just a sign. This car was completely wrapped.
I'm just curious, so I've got a business, I got a phone number on the back of my truck, so you're telling me I couldn't park on Main Street?
I'm not saying that at all, because you don't park there for 2 hours, Arthur.
I'm just trying to get both sides. If somebody, there's plenty of people that got businesses that are on their vehicles and they're wrapped, right, with vinyl. So if we're saying that somebody can't park a vehicle with a business information and phone number and everything, I think we're going to
If he wants to park in front of his own place, that's fine, but it's a dental office in Ruth or Glen parking in front of the hardware store.
I'm with you. I think the other problem goes back to VDOT. That vehicle was parked clearly in a VDOT right-of-way on the side of Route 207 for multiple days that I saw right at the intersection of Carmel Church. Somebody should have gone over there and put a ticket on the vehicle or had it towed. I mean, it was parked in the ditch on 207.
Yeah.
On the entrance to Belmont. I saw it while over there driving.
Well,
That's interesting because we had that situation the day of our love sign. We had someone park their car in front and then they moved it across the street. So I guess, how do you police that? Because if someone, like Arthur says, you have just a small sign, but you go to Los Dos and you're there for 2.5 hours, but at the same time, parking your car for 8 hours, he specifically did that intentionally to sit his car there. Yeah. So that's, I don't know how to police that, but if you're looking up.
The issue is, how you ought to readdress it is, he parked there for 8 hours. Not that he parked there with signage on his car, because regardless, he was there 8 hours, and he shouldn't have been there and holding, taking out parking spots. So regardless whether he was sitting there with advertising or just a van sitting there for 8 hours. And like I said, I think we have something on the books, but we got to put the signs up, you got to put the fines on there, and I'm not, there again, you got to drill through sidewalk if we don't already have it, then you got VDOT that's going to allow it where, they'll have to tell us the placements. So, I mean, it's something we can look into, and I talked to the chief about it today, and he says, if that's what they want me to do, he said, I'll just chalk tires and, enforce it.
I mean, I think we need to If we do not have an ordinance, I think we ought to develop an ordinance that restricts, especially that downtown commercial area, to a 2.5 hour limit.
Yeah, I mean, the city of Fredericksburg does it. Definitely, like
Absolutely.
Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 2-hour mandatory, you know. You're right. Should we,
Yeah, I mean, it should be, whenever the businesses are open, I mean, if there's several businesses that are open, I mean, on Main Street, I shouldn't say several, I know of 2 for sure that are open at 7 o'clock in the morning. So it should start at 7. I'm open to 6. I'm probably one of the latest ones, but Los Dos is open later than that. The Heist is open later than that. I'm not trying to pick on, I know you got a commercial vehicle that you got your signs on, but you're not the problem, Arthur. It's the employees of some of these businesses that take up parking, and if we have to give up another ADA space, I mean, I think we only have to have 1 space per 10 spaces for, I think that was something like the rules. Well, we have 2 for 21 spaces. But if we put in a third one, now we're down 1 more space because we don't have that many handicapped people that are using those spaces. Most of the time, they're open.
So are we all in agreement that we want to develop an ordinance?
I think what you need to do is you need to.
We need to research, see what we got
Well,
first.
yes,
Yeah.
but what you might want to do is make a motion to ask the planning commission to construct and/or update.
No, I'm gonna wait till we find out. Yeah, it's our deal, not planning.
I see requirements for parking for development. I'm not seeing anything that has an hour limit.
It's really interesting that store owners would let their employees park where they need customers.
But you might have had the signs.
That is bizarre. Why don't they let them park, or tell them, park behind me, or, you know, there's a whole mile of Main Street, go park on South End. Everyone can park there.
I know. Yeah,
Parking meters.
I don't.
I'm all for parking meters.
I did a word search for parking, and I don't see anything that has an hourly limit, so I'd be happy to prepare something for you.
I think we need to do that because it just keeps getting worse.
So I make a motion that we have staff first look to see if we have an ordinance, and if we don't, to develop a parking ordinance
For 2 hours.
for 2 hours
Where?
in
What streets?
on Main Street.
Main Street Business District.
I would say between Courthouse Lane and Milford.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Courthouse Lane, what's it?
Does that include, well, you might want to go a little bit farther than Courthouse Lane so it covers the Dollar General and stuff like that
Yeah,
too.
that's the
Davis?
one.
Well, Main Street.
What's that
Go up to
street down there
Davis?
next to the bank? Davis.
Davis Street?
Yeah,
Courthouse Lane and Davis?
Yes.
yeah.
No, Courthouse Lane and Milford.
And Milford.
Well,
Well, it's Milford and Chase.
Chase.
One side is Chase,
Yeah.
the other side is Milford.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a second. Any discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, pass 100%.
If
All right,
we-
staff, you got the job cut out.
If we don't have something on the books, does that include the authority to advertise a public hearing for next month so that you can act on it next month? Otherwise, it would be 2 months.
if I may, real quick, I've got ordinance 2020-01, ordinance authorizing the town manager to regulate parking. Restricted and no parking areas generally, powers of town manager. And that, it's just on the website, under town ordinances. It was, it says the town manager is hereby authorized and directed to make, enforce rules and regulations for parking, stopping, or standing of vehicles within town limits, and to designate the time, place, and manner in which such vehicles may be allowed to park, stop, or stand within the town. So I think this already exists.
Because we approved that about 3 years ago.
2020-001. A state law references Code of Virginia 46.2-1220.
So I get to make up the rules? Okay,
Parking meters.
Calling you Monday.
right. I'll make up the rules.
Because all that came about was right there in front of the new courthouse, and they were parking on both sides of the road. So we gave the town manager the right to decide which side of the road they wanted to park on.
So
You are going to need signs.
signs, I'm going to need staff, because who am I going to, if I have to go out and regulate people parking for 2 hours,
You just write the order. Send,
I'm sorry, I was talking loud enough, though. No, you have the right to designate,
okay,
okay? All right, because like I said, we did about 3 or 4 years, we had all that problem in front of the courthouse, everybody parking on both sides.
you know, we could take it a
Reese was
step.
here when it
All right.
was done.
Hold on,
It
we could take it a
sounds to
step
me-
farther too. A lot of the small towns up in Maryland and some of them in Virginia are putting parking meters on their streets, on their main street. And it increases, it helps the revenue of the town. It helps pay for the signs. You know, 1 month it'd probably pay for all the signs just from the meters that everybody gets.
So who does the enforcement of the parking?
Justin would have to and
The
Rusty.
chief, not the town manager, right?
No, Justin would have to be out there and chalk the tires and write the ticket.
It would force people who don't need to spend time on Main Street to park on the south and north ends of Main Street. We have all this street that people can park on instead of right in front of the stores.
So I
They just don't
mentioned-
want to walk, like Randy says, so force them to do that.
And I mentioned 2 hours. Bonnie's saying she feels like that's probably not enough time, maybe 3 hours. So it's something maybe we ought to look at, but
No, I don't, 3 hours is too much, 3 hours, because I don't have a customer in my store 3 hours. You know, and Los Dos is pretty fast. I mean, people go in there and will drink for 3 hours or so. But I mean, when I looked at, you know, most of those spaces, like the coffee house, they're coming in, they're getting a coffee, they're out in 10 minutes. In the same way, they're probably more than, I would say maybe half of Los Dos' business is carry out anyway. They pull up, they park, they grab their bag, and they're gone. I don't think we need to go more than 2 hours. I think 2 hours is too much.
so
That's a
what,
standard, 2 hours is a
Unless you put a parking meter and they're paying for 2 hours to stay there.
so one thing we're seeing in this,
Cut off, you can 6 o'clock cut off, that way the height.
Then it's free after 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
But that's a standard, even with a parking meter.
park there from 6 at night till 7 in the morning, free.
But they better be out of there.
But during business hours, pay for it.
so as soon as I make up the rule and I can go buy signs,
Allison,
put them up.
we're looking at the ordinance, and it looks like there is no penalty in the ordinance that was adopted. So that may be something we need to look at, and maybe a modification made, or potentially.
I remember that,
Is it stated by the Code of Virginia, though? Does that give the fine?
$25.
you know, this section is not integrated into the whole code, and so this is section 4-411 of the code, so I'm going to have to pull this and then look at the code. Normally, for a parking violation, there is something in there, but I think rather than all of us trying to solve it, maybe I can work with Allison, or Allison can come back in a week and email out a recommendation to,
because I can come up with lots of regulations, but then there can't be any tickets, because what do
well,
you,
I think there's
course
a
they can.
lot of logistics here. You've got to get the tickets, which are usually pre-printed. We have to know the penalty.
there's no
We're
penalty.
going to have to figure out who's going to, you know, if the chief is going to be able to go to court, you need to order the signs, you got to figure out who's going to put up the signs, and we got to look at the legal part too. So,
We do have a fine amount for like when they park at Food Line and they get a ticket. So where is that at? That sets that? Because
I don't know.
all that comes to the town,
if this had been put
you
on
know?
the agenda ahead of time, and I understand it just happened today,
Yeah.
but I would have certainly come prepared.
Right.
I'd like to.
It
discuss
says under the state code that in a locality having a population of at least 40,000, the ordinance may also provide that a summons or parking ticket for that violation of the ordinance or regulation may be issued by law enforcement officers. So we may
But
not.
we don't have 40,000 people, right?
No.
Okay, less than 40.
No, it says of at least 40,000. So
I
that's
can just tell you, Mr. Hooley, parking, as easy as it sounds, can be very complicated.
We don't have, in the county, we don't have tickets. We went down this path.
And-
and we were right where you are.
And so I would ask for the opportunity to look at it thoroughly and provide you with a comprehensive answer. I'm happy to expedite it.
At least a penalty.
Well, it says violators of local ordinances
Or maybe-
adopted shall be subject up to civil penalties not to exceed.
If I may here real quick, this current ordinance, it gives the town manager some authority, and we're sitting here and we're all giving our input on what that should be. So we're trying to rewrite an ordinance when we have an ordinance that says that the town manager can do it. So what I think I'm actually hearing is the council wants to define their own new ordinance. Either way, we haven't really digested what we do have yet. So just like earlier in our agenda, maybe we should just put this for discussion at our next meeting and continue.
I mean, I think the statement was made that we need to have an ordinance, and we already have an ordinance. So that's what I was doing, was looking up the already existing ordinance that the.
No,
town
I'm glad you
Bowling
found
Green
it,
has.
yeah.
So,
If there's an ordinance on the books, then we need to enforce it.
Just to clarify, I pulled our existing code. I didn't look at the individual supplements. I pulled the code and did a word search for parking in the middle of the meeting.
So to echo what Jeff said, I think we should come around and rediscuss this, because I think there's alternatives as well. And I'm going to say it again, if parking meters are an alternative, then we need to discuss that before we order a billion signs, because you won't even need all of that then. So maybe we just need to have further discussion.
I'm in agreement with you, Valerie.
all right, well, this was up just for discussion, so we can, if y'all are done discussing it and Allison has her directions, we can move on to 17, code amendment, guided tours and pedicab or golf cart.
Mr. Mayor
Yes,
and
ma'am.
members of council, Jean Young would like to be brought in by phone, and so I can, let me call her and, if that's okay with council. Shoot. Okay. Okay. This issue is, Jean Young, as she'll tell you, hi.
Hi, Allison.
Hi.
Council.
If you just give me 1 second to introduce it, then I will put you on. So the issue, I just wanted to make it clear that the issue tonight, this is not a public hearing. You need to set up a public hearing, and here's the choice. The choice is,
We need to hear what the proposal is.
all right. Oh. Okay. Okay, Jean, go ahead and tell the council what you would like to do.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we hear you
Great.
fine.
I have just retired after 41 years in public education, and I have had a dream to have a historical tour business in Bowling Green, a little side job. I'm so proud of Bowling Green. I have lived there for 25 years, and I just think it's just a fascinating little town with lots of secrets. I have, which arrived today, what is called a pedicab. It is a bicycle with a carriage on the back. It seats 3 adults. And I have been working since January on various places in Bowling Green that I would like to show people and tell them about. So when I applied for the business license, I was really shocked and disappointed that there was not a way to code this so that I could go ahead and get started. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'm just really excited about showing off our little town, and I can't wait to get started.
So council, I talked to the town attorney, and what's needed is a franchise ordinance, and I'm sure the attorney will speak to that. What's needed, though, is a decision whether to have the applicant apply for a text amendment, and then the cost is incurred by the applicant it's $500 for application, $750 if the applicant wants the town to prepare the amendment, or if the town council would like to go ahead and set up a public hearing, the cost for the advertisement can be incurred by the town.
And what is the text amendment for?
For the franchise?
For the franchise, okay. I just didn't know if you meant something else.
And
Okay.
then the decision will be at public hearing. The decision to do this or not is not tonight. Only whether you want to set up the public hearing or have the applicant apply to set up the public hearing. Okay.
So normally, the decision whether or not to apply rests with the applicant, because the council, prior to conducting a duly advertised public hearing, can't really give an answer on whether or not the request would be approved.
Right. So the state law has always been a little confusing to me, and I did not talk to the attorney prior to this, maybe different attorneys have different opinions. The state law just says an amendment can occur by an applicant, by a planning commission, or by a governing body, and maybe that's just for zoning.
Yes, that is, because this
Okay.
would be a franchise that would be a business to benefit a particular entity or person.
Okay, so then there's no choice. The applicant, the person who wants this would need to apply, pay the
Yes.
fee, and then we would proceed to hold the public hearing.
Yes, but maybe the applicant would like to kind of outline the hours of operation a little bit more, just to give council a feel for it.
Yes, I would be offering 45-minute tours, probably Thursday through Sunday.
Is there certain time frames, Gene? This is Randy Hageman.
Hey, Randy. Probably earlier in the morning and later in the afternoon, but I could possibly do them any time of day.
So this is similar to, like in the city of Fredericksburg, I think they have horse-drawn carriages where you can do tours of Fredericksburg. This would be a similar request to that. And the reason that a franchise is needed is that the council would be giving someone the right, if you will, to use town streets, even though I know they belong to VDOT, in a way that is not generally afforded to other citizens. She would be getting an exclusive right, if you will, to conduct this business.
The pedicab is legally called a bicycle, if that makes any difference.
Jean, so it's strictly bipedal, there is no motorization? I know in Florida they have pedicabs, but they also have ones with a motor on it, still called a pedicab. So
good point, Valerie. My pedicab has pedal assist.
So it does have a small vehicular device?
Yes, a small battery. It's charged by a battery to assist with the pedaling.
Valerie, is there any insurance required that you'd have to have? Like when I had the limousine service here in town, I had to have for hire insurance. And as long as you're going to be charging people, you're probably, have you checked into that? Will you have to have for hire insurance because the town can't be held liable?
Likely going to be an insurance requirement, and that would be part of the franchise agreement.
Okay, I got a question for the town attorney. I apologize, but when you say franchise, is that a way that the applicant would need to construct a business through the State Corporation Commission to meet a requirement? Okay. I think a franchise like, you got it. Okay, I'm with you.
Andre, maybe you could like outline a little more like what a franchise agreement is. The like for example, like the county has one. Well, I know at least where I work in King George, the county has one for all of their internet, their cable. It's a cable franchise agreement, and so they deal with their connection things in those ways. And so, like for the longest time, it was like with MetroCast, and so exclusively MetroCast provided all of the internet connection to the schools and the county. And, like there, I was a subcontractor that MetroCast hired to do their meetings because everything was all inclusive in the franchise agreement. So this would be creating something somewhat similar on a smaller scale.
A franchise is essentially an agreement between the local government and another entity, allowing them to use some sort of public facility, whether it's lines in the ground like for cable, or roads for horse-drawn carriages, cell tower lines, things like that. Those are all done by franchise, and it usually has things like responsiveness to customer service complaints, the rates that might be charged, how long or how a complaint might be resolved. For example, with a cable franchise, sometimes there's requirements that interruptions in service have to be resolved within 72 hours or something like that. And so it's done by ordinance, but it's sort of like an agreement.
So I guess if we establish a franchise agreement, is that what you would call it, or ordinance?
Ordinance.
Does that, is that exclusive to just one applicant?
Yes.
Or, okay.
This would be exclusive.
So no other applicants could?
You could grant it to others if you wanted.
So if she does the text amendment, then that's solely on her franchise.
Right.
If council sat down and came up with the franchise ordinance, then it would apply to anybody else that would come in to apply, right? Or do we make it directly just at her?
If another company wanted to come in and do the same thing, they too would apply for a franchise, and the terms would likely be very similar to the first
but
franchise.
I'm just wondering why, if we were to make an ordinance of it, why would that make any difference than they just coming in and applying for it on their own, if we already had an ordinance on it?
Because that's how the General Assembly said we're
Yeah.
supposed to do it.
Okay. So we need to do both, or we just need to do the one?
Just do one.
So if we made it, then we would make it directly to her.
Yes, sir.
If she writes it, it's still being directly made to her.
It's the same thing.
Right, one's being paid and one's being not paid.
Yeah, I'm not aware of
Okay, that's
your
what I was trying to
authority
get through.
pay for the
Okay,
application
that's what
of
okay, that's
private
what I was
person-
trying to
private
determine
business.
the difference.
So why do we
Right.
need
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand, if I had a business in town and my business was I rented picnic tables and I only did it in town and I used the public road to transport my picnic tables to different venues throughout town, why would I need a franchise agreement? And what's the difference between she's transporting people and talking and, I don't understand why one would be required.
Yeah, it's different for towns than it is for counties. It's because there's a separate section in the Code of Virginia relating to municipalities, and frankly, the when do you need a franchise and when do you not is a big gray area. I would say you would not need a franchise if you're going to move the picnic tables around. But if you're going to use town picnic tables, like to, I don't know, put on puppet shows or something, then you would probably need a franchise.
But she's not using a town pedicart.
She's
I mean,
using
she's using her own private
the
pedicart,
town right-of-ways.
but I would be using the town right-of-ways to move my picnic tables.
Okay, how,
I know, but it's,
Is it
It's that
because
the
the
s-
nature of the business entirely relies upon the actual public asset?
yes.
well, how does,
And
you
the
have,
only reason I say this with such certainty is I happen to have to research the issue of whether the horse-drawn carriages in Fredericksburg needed a franchise, because it was entirely not clear at the time.
I was going to ask you about if you knew anything about the horse carriage in Fredericksburg. Is that a franchise?
It is.
Okay, so really what it is a franchise more or less guarantees you are doing this, and they can also even get it put in a franchise that you can't have anybody else come in doing the same thing, right? To protect themselves and get voted on and all that. I mean, it's to protect them and their business and what they're doing in town, correct?
I don't know that,
Publicly?
yeah, I don't know that I really feel like it protects anyone. I
Okay.
think personally it's a bit bureaucratic.
Well, it's just like if they franchise with cable people, they're gonna say, you can't use nobody else in their franchise.
I mean,
So-
it would protect Jean if, from somebody else coming in and doing the same thing that she's doing, but, and theoretically, I guess it protects the consumer, but in this instance, I think it's, I think it's unfortunate that we have to do something like that.
Thought I'd just asked if someone else could come in and start the same business, and the answer was yes.
No, well, they would have to apply for a franchise. They would have to go through the same process. Yeah.
Yeah, so they could still do the exact same thing.
They would have to get permission, and the franchise may not be granted.
But does that leave the locality up to any litigation because you denied one and approved the other?
I don't, it would depend on the circumstances. I mean, the locality's always open for litigation. People can sue you all the time, whether that has any merit. I mean, if it was a discriminatory purpose, then yeah, you would have liability. But if, you know, Jean's business was doing well and we didn't feel like additional traffic was warranted on the streets, you know, it would just depend on the basis for your reasoning.
So Jean, I just have a couple questions. So you have 3 adults, that's you as the operator and 2 adults. Are you going to be making a mapping of the streets, because you can't go on Broadus Avenue as a golf cart or a cab if you're going at a certain speed?
It's a
Does that make it-
bicycle.
So she can go in the bicycle path on Broadus Avenue?
She can go, what I've read about bicycles is that they can travel as any other vehicle on the roads.
So a golf cart could not go on Broadus Avenue, but a pedicab can?
Correct.
Wow, that's interesting. As long as she stays within the bicycle lane?
I don't know.
I believe
I,
the vehicle is supposed to yield the right of way
The right-
to the bicycle,
Right.
but I just see the need for additional police presence if this moves forward, because we already have concerns on Saturday and Sundays in this town with traffic and speed. So,
Jean, how fast, never mind, forget it. As fast as you can pedal, I guess. Or how's that battery going?
You know, I have been riding my regular bicycle around town just to get used to pedaling the route, and it's just a leisurely pace. It's not meant to be anything that's really fast. It's just a leisurely ride to about 10 or 12 stops around town.
Cool, gotcha.
Yeah, I spoke to Jean about that briefly, and I think it sounds like a wonderful idea. I mean, I'd love to see it happen here. That's my 2 cents. I mean, I think it just sounds great.
Can I make a suggestion? What if you issued a license to Jean for, I don't know, a period of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever you might think on a temporary basis, to kind of
Feel it out.
see if she wants to do it, see what kind of a desire there is for it in the people who visit the town, and also what issues might arise, and then after that, go through the process of doing a franchise.
Can we legally do that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I mean, a license doesn't give her any rights. It's revocable at any time. You could set some basic parameters. I'm just kind of trying to think of a way to be practical. I don't think that there's any risk of somebody suing you for issuing her a license to do that. And you can issue a license to people for other use of public property. I just think that might be more practical.
I don't think I'd like to go down that road of precedent. Like, I know we had the other item taken off the list tonight, and I know it had different considerations, but a similar argument could be made. It
Yeah,
would be different.
I'll second that. We in the past have made applicants for these same scenarios go through the public hearing and pay for the fees. And I stated in the first one that I was a part of that once we do this, we're going to set the precedents. And it's been set, so I think to make an exception to it and deviate from the process is not professional.
I just wasn't aware that we had had another franchise request.
It's not a franchise request. It's somebody that didn't have a business that was in our text and that they had to go in and put in a special use permit and go through a public hearing. I mean,
Right,
it's the
this is
same.
different than zoning.
So this has nothing to do with
Nothing,
it not being in our code.
no.
Nothing at
I mean,
all.
not as, I have not looked at the zoning part of it. I'm speaking about it from a franchise perspective. Has nothing to do
She's
with
not
because
running the
zoning
business
is
out of a
property.
business building.
Yeah.
No, it's on public property, so it's
Yeah.
not
Not a
zoning.
zoning. I mean, I think we should have the mindset that we want to encourage innovative things like this. I mean, trying to make somebody have to go through a public hearing every time they want to do something seems ridiculous. I think setting some sort of, we are able to do a, what do you call it, a license, and it's something that we have control over if things aren't working, that's absolutely the way to do it. I see no reason to go through months of public hearings and expense and everything else. To me, we want to make things easy and not more difficult. Because that's when nobody wants to do anything. Everything's so difficult.
Was this like this back in the 90s? Because when I had my limousine service, I just had to get a business license from the town, and then I was in business.
Right, and a limousine service, again, is more like a cab service or an Uber. People who do that don't have to get a franchise.
But, I mean,
This is a tour of,
but it's still like a vehicle for hire.
not really.
So I got a question for the town manager. So somebody that wants to start a business that is not in our code, right? So could you give me one like a paint shop or an auto repair shop? Is that one? Or am I incorrect?
A tattoo parlor.
Okay, so can we give something else that's not in there? It would be something that's not clearly defined under B1, B2, right?
Well, it was taxidermy 2 years ago.
Okay, so did they have to go through
Yes.
a text amendment? Okay.
But that's different because it's a building. There is a clear distinction between what they're saying and this. So when I say I'm against precedent, it's more of a semantical argument.
So I'll say this, I want to start a lemonade delivery service throughout the town. That probably needs to be gone through because it's not clearly defined in our code, right? So would I have to go through a text amendment process? Yeah, I want to go around and deliver lemonade to people's doors, like DoorDash. I want to start a
think as
business.
long as there's.
I can start a delivery service business within the town of Bowling Green? I don't need a text amendment?
That's a zoning question. It's not a
No,
franchise question.
I'm using public roads to deliver lemonade.
Yes, you have to, it's not that you're using public roads. Most businesses use public roads. It's
Okay.
that you're having an exclusive right to use your public roads because it is a historical tour.
I'm just trying to see if we have granted a similar case in the past that now we're going to deviate from that
We have,
process.
the only thing that we've done that I'm aware of is a Cablevision franchise, probably did a Bell Atlantic franchise back in the day. There was probably an electric utility franchise at some point. I'm not aware of
So they have to
anything
go
like
through
this.
text amendments or
It's not a text amendment, it's an ordinance, and it would be an
code
uncodified
amendment? Sorry.
ordinance.
So did they have to go through code amendments?
It's not a code amendment, it would be uncodified usually.
I understand. The one I'm confused about is,
It's fine.
no, the one I'm confused about is food trucks. If they're on
There we go.
the street.
Okay. I'm with you. So I'm just trying to figure out here because nobody seems to have a clear and definite answer that, yes.
So a food
or no.
truck.
No, I do have a clear, definite answer. The definite answer is when you are premising your business on the exclusive right to use public property, such as, think of a cable line. They get all their money from what goes through that line that's in our ground. That's when you need a franchise. If you are
They have
making
to get an easement, right?
excuse me.
Don't
If
they?
you are making a telephone call using that telephone line, you don't need a franchise.
No, but they have a right of way and an easement, correct?
No, they have a franchise.
Not in a public right-of-way. If they're on private property, they would.
I'm just trying to help. You're really free to do whatever you want.
You made the recommendation that we deviate from, I'm just trying to figure out the process. I don't know. And you said, let's just grant a business license temporarily for 30
No, I
or
didn't
60
say
days.
business license. I said a license.
Okay, a license. Which can they conduct a business with a license? I don't know what
They
this
would need a
license is.
separate business license as well. A license is a right to use something that gives no property rights to the person who is the licensee. It's terminable at the will of the licensor. It's what you get when you go and rent a hotel room. You get a license. It's not like you're leasing an apartment. When you lease something, you get property rights. And so I was suggesting it because the state code clearly intends that the governing body engage in some type of regulation regarding people using public things. And I was trying to come up with a practical solution because I doubt that there's a likelihood you're going to be sued because somebody has a pedicab business to give historical tours. And I was just trying to suggest a way to stimulate local business and make it easy on a local resident. But the technically correct answer is to do a franchise.
Not necessarily have to, but.
I think what you ought to do is,
I like Dan's idea, and probably yours, a license, but we would have to have something in the system stating how the license would be acquired.
Yeah, I just think we need to make things as easy and
Yeah.
efficient as we can. Just because somebody had a very difficult time years ago and had to go through a whole lot, I think what we need to do is figure out how to correct that so that that never happens again. And so that when somebody comes in the town and would like to have a business and operate, that it is easily done and it's not so burdensome that you finally just give up.
So you want to make things easier, but we just talked about making parking harder. Am I incorrect?
Which
I
brings me
think you're
to a
incorrect.
question.
What we're trying to make easier on the parking is for people to go in and access the businesses that are there. That's what you're trying to make easier.
So Jean, are you going to operate out of your home? Or are you renting a building or?
No, I'm probably going to have a small spot on Main Street. I'm going to make my soaps and candle products out of that area. I'm getting ready to apply for that business license. So I would probably incorporate the Main Street Historic Tour business right out of there. And I do appreciate all the conversation and discussion about this. And I just saw such a glimmer of hope when the license was mentioned, because as I mentioned to you, I've been planning this since last January, and the pedicab was delivered from Denver, Colorado today. I'm on vacation, so I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait. But if there's anything you all could do so that this is just a little retirement business, and I think it'll be, the people in the town have already said they can't wait. And people from out of town are saying that they're going to come in. So if there's anything you all could do to let me go ahead and get this off the ground and not have to go through putting out a lot of money, this is a retirement job, and waiting another month or two, I would appreciate it so much.
So, Jean, I'm sorry, I didn't want to hop on this, and the only reason I'm asking is because we've had earlier discussions in reference to parking. So if you're going to have this on, I guess, Main Street someplace, where would people park to come and see? Will you have a specific area, or they will park any place they can and come up to your storefront or area?
Right, but Valerie, that's a great question. I would not take up a Main Street parking place. I've actually talked to Mary at the corner store, and she said that I could possibly even park the pedicab in that little area where it's not taking up a parking place, and then my customers would meet me there.
Where they sit to have food?
No, there's a little place right out between the street and where there's a fence, and the pedicab could actually sit right up in there.
It's where I think Gibson's used to be.
Where Gibson's used to have their food truck or ice cream truck?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So isn't that owned by the Heist?
Up from the Heist, yes.
So the Heist gave you permission to do that, I guess, okay.
No, I've talked to Mary, and this hasn't been nailed down in stone, Valerie. I would, I still need to work out exactly where I would meet the customers, et cetera.
Cool. Thank you.
But I don't plan to take up a marked space with the pedicab.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it just sounds like a great idea. I make a motion that we direct the town attorney to draft a license agreement that we can all review and discuss at our next meeting.
All right, I got a motion on the floor by Dan.
I'll second it.
I got a second by Randy. Any further discussion? Here,
So I think Valerie had just asked about the parking of the customers. So if they're not going to park on Main Street, or they're going to
No.
have designated parking somewhere else?
That's what she's working
Yeah,
on
she's talking about being
with
with-
Jason and the corner store to park
Being
there.
on the
She
Heights
said
land.
she would not take up a parking space on the street.
And I apologize because I've never encountered this scenario, but I don't have clear and concise guidance on it.
No.
So
That's a franchise license agreement, that's what you want to say? I just
Mr.
wanna
Hooley,
make sure
I'm
it says
happy to talk with
franchise.
you, tomorrow if that's more convenient, but help me to
I don't know.
understand what I can say to make it more clear.
I just feel like we had two, right, code amendments. I'm going to call them code amendments because they're in the agenda for official business as code amendments. So we scratched one, but now it feels like we're making an exception on one where I feel like in the past, we've gone through a process that's been documented. So yes, I would be upset if I personally was one of those individuals that had to go through a code amendment to establish a business within the town limits that was not clearly defined in any code section, and then all of a sudden, one just gets moved through. Am I incorrect in looking at it like that, or maybe I'm missing?
You're-
I
no,
may
you're-
be missing.
You're
this
not
whole thing.
incorrect. What I hear you saying is that you feel like there are some people who have had to get permission through the zoning process to be able to do their business. And you feel like it would be unfair to allow somebody to do something on a temporary basis, on a limited time basis, since everybody else has had to go through that process of zoning. And I agree with you about that. The distinction I'm trying to make is that the use, this is not a zoning question. Like, zoning is in a whole category unto itself. This is in a different category of, again, cell phones, cable, electricity. Maybe if somebody had if we had a waterfront, okay, and somebody wanted to do boating tours or something, and, we owned the water, and they were going to do it off of that. There are certain limited instances where when someone is trying to use something public for an exclusive business use, and again, this is not just driving down the street, it's going down the street, talking about what happened on the street, and arguably doing it to the exclusion of other pedicabs. Now, I know we don't have other pedicabs, but just that's the theory behind it. And so what I'm saying is, I think that in order for somebody to do this type of business, they need some sort of authorization or paperwork from the governing body. And what I'm suggesting is that since this is not zoning, which would have to go through the Planning Commission, that one thing that we could do is on a limited basis offer a license, and if it seems that the business is a go and that there's a demand for it, that then you would follow through with the actual franchise, which would involve paying the money and conducting the public hearing. To use your zoning example, there is nothing that you can give somebody in zoning to let them do it on a temporary basis if it's not allowed by code. There just isn't. I don't know if that helps.
I'm sorry. In thinking this through and understanding that the use is going to be on private property, the parking's going to be on private property, I think the motion will allow me time to get with you on.
This is on the road.
The use is on the road, so parking it and selling it on private property, I just need to fit it into some category. So this, I'll do me. So this gives me time to get with you on that.
So you're saying there might be a separate zoning issue?
So I'll talk that through with you during this month when you are bringing back to council what you need to bring back.
But she's selling it through the airwaves, through the phone. She's only using a private parking place just to store it, so it stays off the street parking.
See, uses
And then
in
they just meet her
zoning,
there and go. But I mean, she's using the public right of way. She's not using a building like the tattoo parlor's got to go through zoning. It's got to go through the planning commission. It's got to be, make sure it's either B1 or B2 to be able to have that. But she's not using a building, so to speak. She's
Does,
using the public, just like
a
the
use-
cable company and all that other stuff.
a use doesn't have to be indoors, though. And so I just need to think this through, because I just need to think it through and figure out how to make this work. And so Mr. Holy might be right. I just need to talk it through with the attorney and figure out how to make it happen.
Well, and if a text amendment were needed for this use, I would agree with you, Mr. Hooley, that would have to occur.
So putting
But
it,
if there is no zoning issue and it's just the question of a franchise, I think a license gives some governmental authority.
it would be easier if it just sat out on the side of the road. Although it might be taking up a parking space, it would just be easier for that pedicab to sit out on the side of the road. Because then the use is out there. I just need to think it through, and I'm not saying there's a problem, I just need to get with you. I just wanted to bring that up, though, that I don't want to come back next month and say, oh, there's a problem, so.
All right, my little 2 cents on this, I'll be brief. Yeah, everything that you were just saying, taking the next month to figure it out, that's just the one thing I do want to remind, us when we're making these decisions about trying to find a different way to get something done. They're going to spend a lot of time on this. That's what those fees are supposed to be for. And the advertising, but it's all reflective in the operations. And the one other thing, I mentioned earlier, like it was kind of a semantical argument from me, and I'll stand by that. Like I understand the distinction between the franchise agreement and a zoning amendment and a text amendment and all that, but the general public doesn't. So that's what I was getting at when you as an outsider see this person getting something, then you expect that. And we started this agenda tonight with 2 on the thing. They were different, and legally they're different, and you're completely fine to go down that road. But there can be hurt feelings depending on the decision you make on the next one, depending on what it is. But just keep that in your mind. Like, the motion that was just made, that gives us another month to talk about. I'm fine with that. Let's just do that. So.
And
I'm done.
I respect that, Mr. Voigt. I'm just trying to offer an option, that's all.
Yeah,
Right.
and really, I'm sure that she would be happy to put it right on the side of the street if that allowed this to happen more quickly, so.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. I got a first and a second to repeat the motion, please, so that everybody knows what you're voting on.
Yeah, I believe the motion was to instruct the town attorney to draft a license agreement that we can review at our next meeting.
Okay, all right.
No, we were just
No.
talking about a
No, it would
license,
just
and
be
then,
a license, yeah. And I understand that this is confusing. It is a confusing area. I'm happy to talk with any of you in the next couple of days to give further explanation.
All right,
So I would challenge, I guess, whomever's researching this, maybe look at the documentation from Fredericksburg, because they have an extensive amount in regards to that. And-
You want to see their
all
franchise?
right.
No, I'm talking about their documentation in regards to ordinances and the resolution for their ground transportation ordinance, which included pedicabs, and that's in Fredericksburg. I mean, that Nashville. No, I have it. I'm just saying that I think it weighs benefit to look and try to base it off that, because if we just go and throw things out, which it seems like some people want to do, I feel like we're going to get caught with another situation that, just for an example, the food trucks. We never really solved that. So here we are again,
Yeah, I think
just
that's
haphazardly doing things.
yeah, I think that that's a good idea. So you're just asking as an aside to get information about what other localities do with pedicabs?
I would prefer that if we're going to move forward on it, that we base this off of a template like the city of Fredericksburg or Nashville, somebody that's established with this.
Yeah, I just want to
Exactly.
know.
I mean, somewhere that
can do
has
to
an
help.
established process to say, okay, here it is, this is what's defined. Like, for example, the city of Fredericksburg makes them put in an application for $100 for the vehicle and $10 every year. I mean, I'm not saying we have to do that, but there's things that they have in their documentation to clearly define and outline the process so that when somebody comes to do it, here it is. And I
Yes,
get
sir.
it, this is the first time we've probably been approached with this, but we got to do it right.
I just want to be clear on what I can do to help. You want me to get what other localities do?
I'm only one person. I've already got what they've got by a quick search, but
All right, well, y'all can talk over later. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I didn't hear none, but I don't think I heard all the ayes either. Okay.
I'll
motion
abstain.
passes.
There you
You'll
go.
abstain? I do need a roll call vote? I don't do roll calls all the time. What's wrong with you? Arthur?
Mr. Mayor, I just stated that I would abstain.
Well, I'm doing a roll call now like I was told I had to instruct to do. So I'm just going back over this. Excuse me. Randy?
Aye.
Valerie? There's 2 abstains. Dan?
Aye.
Jeff? Jean? Yes. We got 4 and 2. Motion passes for y'all to look into it and come back with something later. We need to get this meeting over. Next is audio, video, and computer systems. Presenter, oh my God, Jeff Voigt.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure y'all don't want to hear from me. This can
If you
wait
can
till
keep
next
it
month
quick,
if you
yes.
like.
Maybe we might
We,
ought
we,
to.
we can table this until next month.
It's just an introduction. You want to wait till next month?
Do you want me to take 5 minutes on it?
If you take 5.
Okay. All right, fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so a month and a half ago, when we had David on, when he was on vacation, and we were trying to present the budget, and live stream at the same time. Like you all know that I do that as a job. We have a limited amount of equipment here, okay? I was double booked that day. So some of my personal equipment was being used. So I supplement a little of the stuff here with some of my own stuff. Like I'm using my own personal laptop right now to stream the video. I obviously don't mind doing that, but there are some things that were technically missing. That night I was not able to live stream at the same time. I was only able to bring David into the meeting. So a simple thing would be I could ask you all, hey, is it okay to authorize the town manager to get the $100 worth of cables that we need? That would be really simple. I mean, if we wanted to do that, we could do that. But I kind of wanted to open the door to have a little bit more of a conversation about what you want to do a little bit more in the future, like how you want to integrate this. I'm not always going to be around. While I'm here, I'll do it. I don't care. But there are other ways of getting this recording done. I want to talk about more than just AV for this, but that can wait for another time because we have that system in there that doesn't even get used. Nobody knows how to use, and it actually needs repair. I know what's wrong with it, but
Junk. What's wrong with it?
all right, I wouldn't say that, but I get it.
You know exactly what.
Stuff in the wall got disconnected. But so what I'll do is I'll put in your minds to kind of think about what you envision the future of this building in its usage of AV, for things outside of just the council. And also other direction that you might want to take the AV that we do. Now, more and more localities every year are getting on this bandwagon of streaming or at the very least recording. We just got through the last General Assembly session. It did not leave the committees, but there were discussions about basically making that state level mandate. And there was some confusion in those discussions about whether or not they were going to have the localities actually host those videos. So they were possibly going to make you record everything, so like not even just these, but work sessions, planning commission, everything elected, and they're gonna make you host it, which that would be difficult as a small locality, which is why part of why it died. But we want to think about that kind of thing going forward. So there are boxes, like I don't necessarily need to use the laptop. You can get a little box. I could just hook everything up, plug it in, input our streaming information, and then just walk in and hit on, and then hit off, on, off, basically. Because we only do a one camera setup right now anyway. It's all in the angle. You know, at the other times I do multiple angles, but you know, can only do so much sitting here. But that will cost more. So like the cables I need, $100. You know, doing, you know, I mean, less than $5,000, but it's all in the scope of what you want to do. And we could have a better discussion of that later. Like, you know, I wanted to keep it short, so I'll basically stop there. We need to talk about computer systems and IT. We'll do that another time. Maybe we'll be a little more expedient in the next meeting.
I agree with you, table it for next meeting, because we gave another former town manager $30,000 for that garbage. So we really need to discuss, because everything you just said, we gave them money for 3 years ago. Allegedly, we were getting streaming, et cetera, and whoever put the, and I'm going to keep saying it, garbage in, did not give us that. So we're 30,000 in the hole. So we really need to make sure of what we want and how we want it. Thank you.
All right, thank you there.
I just want to apologize. I had to step out. My daughter is in Montana and has had a day of horrific flight non-adventures, and I just needed to take the call, so I apologize.
All right, so we're on number 19, which is just,
Do we need to make a motion to table this till next month?
no, it was just informational. That's all it was. Instruction, just information. National Night Out, which is coming up August 1st at the playground. Town Police Department will be there. Some of the Sheriff's Department will be there. Fire Department will be there. Rescue Squad. And also supposed to get the hot dogs, but we're trying to find, might be in need of trying to find somebody to cook them. And also the county is providing $500 for the event. So we need to thank the county for that. But we get everybody to show up out there sometime or another. It'd be nice. I know the sheriff will make a round. He'll show up sometime. McGruff usually comes around. The kids enjoy it. Really a good time. You know, just come by and say hi. You know, you don't have to stay long. Take a picture with McGruff or hop up on the fire truck and pull the whistle. All right. I think we are down to going into, nope. Sorry. I added number 20 on to the informational item, and that is what y'all have sitting in front of you here. This letter that was on your desk. I will read it. It's dated July 6, 2023. The Honorable Mayor of Town of Bowling Green, the Honorable members of the Bowling Green Town Council. Dear Mayor and members of Council, it has been an honor to have the opportunity to serve as a Bowling Green Town Attorney. I feel blessed, and the town of Bowling Green will always hold a special place in my heart. However, I am resigning my position effective July 31st, 2024.
You're so funny.
23. I don't know how long it took you to get that. I am happy to continue to provide assistance and support if needed after July 31st in the event that the new town attorney has not been retained, and I will facilitate a smooth transition. I wish each and every one of you success and trust that we will keep in touch. Best regards, Andrea Erard. You will be missed.
I will miss you too.
Okay. So after that, we are now down to going into closed session. Is that what I'm hearing? Did you write that up, please? Okay. Jeff, thanks for sitting here and enduring this.
Is,
And thanks for tell your members, thanks for the money for the National Night Out. Appreciate it. Really do. Thank you.
good to see you. Is there motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 for the discussion of the hiring and job responsibilities of a town manager and pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel regarding a specific legal matter, delinquent account collections?
So moved?
Because not everyone was vetted because of those, basically not to do it. I think Mr. Hooley said he didn't vet any of the people, right?
I mean, I reviewed some of the resumes, yes. Some didn't have references, but I wanted to ask, I guess I thought we were going into closed session to discuss like personnel positions. And if we say just town manager, we can only talk about the town manager position,
Yeah,
correct?
you're not allowed to go into closed meeting to discuss town personnel or town positions generally. If it's a general discussion of the organizational chart and responsibilities of people, that has to be done in public.
What we were going to do after we come out was when we were going to talk about authorizing, right. That's when we were going to do, when we came out.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, again, stuck, I guess, because there's multiple vacancies within our org chart, I'll call that, right?
Right.
So we can only talk about one of those, right?
Well, I was only asked to prepare a motion for that one, so I need to be told what to prepare the motion for.
Okay, I apologize because for multiple months, I thought we were going into closed session to discuss the vacant positions that we had, but
No one communicated
I
that to
may
me.
be incorrect.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Valerie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, 100%. All right. We are closed session, so, who made the motion? Dan, you made the motion, right? Who made that motion?